Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, the Russians.
Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots. Their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. Are we all staying sane out there? Kind of surprised. It's been a weird news cycle. Weird week, another weird week. Mr. Burning Bright, how you doing, sir?
Good. A lot of weird weeks. It actually, a dollar rant came in just now from Deborah Stars, and she said, "Guess bunker busters are bygones."
Oh,
and
that's
to what you just said.
I forgot to email her back.
Oh,
so that's not
related to to the InfoWar?
No, it's her grandpa or dad invented part of the technology with bunker busters, and a while ago.
Okay.
And here, it's totally my fault. The reality of the situation is like I need a personal assistant or somebody to like go through my emails, and I just haven't gotten there yet. I will catch up at some point, Deborah.
Well, the reason that I brought that up is because when you said everything's nuts, I think it's a reminder for all of us that 2 weeks ago, it was World War III with Iran, and like this was it. And now it's, oh my God, Epstein and everything. We're going to talk about all that stuff. Like, it's fun. It's more just, it's a reminder for myself of remember that this stuff is fun, because every time these narratives get super amplified by Trump himself, if you're stressed out about it, within 5 days, there's going to be something completely different. And usually kind of, it just gives me more confidence and encouragement that it is largely narrative going on. It's fun to engage with, but World War III did not happen 2 weeks ago, and I don't think that the plan fell apart this week either.
It might have, though. We don't know. We don't know, because we don't know the plan. Couple things before I comment on what you just said there. My mom is in the chat right now, and so I have to be on my best behavior. Just kidding. I'm going to be on my worst behavior tonight. I wish we had you're going to wish we had a swear jar for this show. We could fund Ukraine ourselves. Just kidding, Mom. Love you. But what you said there, I wonder if there's a correlation between the DeSantis people, the simps, the people who were on the losing side, wrong side of the Iran situation, which...
The narrative, you mean? Like
the narrative side, the wrong narrative side. And then the people kind of freaking out over this Epstein stuff. Like, this thing is so... We had a great show on Monday night. People got real mad at me over some of the stuff I said. And it's probably not going to be any better tonight. We have to keep talking about it because there keeps being updates to it. We have to. And so I'm
Trump is... by telling everybody to move on from it in the most bombastic Trumpian manner possible, he's obviously amplifying the narrative.
Yeah, which he could be doing as a little reverse psychology too. We don't know. We'll get there.
Yeah, I'm having fun with this genuinely because there are so many twists and turns. I don't even mean trying to figure out what the truth of Epstein is. More, there are so many twists and turns to how Trump is navigating the story. And to your point about the DeSimps, etc., even though none of us knows what's actually going on and what actually happened and what Trump's intentions are, we're guessing at all of these things, we're gaming these things out. You can still, I think, point out when people are being idiots. And it's not people who are questioning the Epstein narrative, because I think it should be questioned. I think Trump wants us questioning it. But it's people that are turning on Trump, to your point. And those people, like, they keep, I've been calling it like the hermit crab approach ever since 2022 midterms, where they come out, they think it's safe, they go all out against him, and then they like retreat back in when it turns out he ends up looking good by the end of the story. And to your point about Iran too, they did the same thing then. And man, it used to be that like every 9 months they'd do it, and now it's like weekly. They've got something that they're going after him for, and I don't think that that's making them look great.
Yeah, and it's this particular story too. No, let's get to our sponsors quick first, and then we'll start discussing. So we're probably going to start with the Epstein stuff. We're going to get into some of the RICO stuff, some updates, which these might end up being two regular kind of topics for the foreseeable future, just because of how big and impactful they are. But we're going to get into some other stuff too. Some of the Fed, the Powell situation. There was some interesting stuff with AI, some Russia stuff. I mean, we'll see how far we get and how long we go. But before we do any of that, here's a story for you. My son had baseball tonight, and I wore my normally when I go do sporting stuff or stuff like that, I'd leave my glasses in the car, but I accidentally wore them to the field. And so I took them off at the field and put them in a little cubby thing. And I got home and I realized I don't know where my glasses are. And I'm pretty sure I left them at the field. And so my eyesight isn't that bad, but I don't have that excuse anymore when I'm reading bad to like reset myself. Like, let me just find my glasses.
Right. See, my strat has been to pretend I don't need glasses for years until I'm dead. And then I will never have needed them if I didn't ever cave to needing them.
Yeah. But then if there's ever a situation where you do need them, and you start wearing them, like, oh man, I wish I would have wore these a long time ago.
That's true.
But
it would
there's
probably
not
be
a whole
cool
lot
to be
of
able
those
to see stuff
situations.
clearly.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just thinking of that, and I was like, I should put my glasses on because I'm about to read the ads, remembering that I don't have my glasses. All right, first up we got, that's the wrong one. There we go. Lean. Have you heard of Caralluma? It's an edible cactus that grows in India, and it is a natural appetite suppressant. Caralluma is just one of the natural ingredients doctors added to a remarkable weight loss supplement called Lean. If you have a bold summer weight loss goal, but injections aren't for you, here's what the doctors who formulated Lean said. They said the supplement is as close as we've come to the benefits of those popular injections. Like injections, Lean was created to help maintain healthy blood sugar and help control appetite and cravings. But the rare ingredients in Lean are also designed to help burn fat by converting fat into energy. And the best part, there's no needles, just results. Doctors created a healthier way to lose weight by capturing the power of natural ingredients like Caralluma. And this is just a start. We can get you started with a 20% discount. Use code DPH20 at takelean.com. That's code DPH20 at takelean.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, and is not a substitute for or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. It's my favorite part of the read is at the end when I do the little disclaimer, and because I don't have my glasses, I feel like I didn't get to read it as fast. Can't speed read as good. Anyway, one more sponsor tonight. Very excited to have these guys on board. These are a newbie to us. It's Mega Offers. You know how sometimes you see something and think, okay, I need those in my life like yesterday. That was me when I first came across these Trump Never Surrender gold sneakers. I've got mine in the mail. Do you have any Trump sneakers, by the way?
I do not, and I think that needs to change.
Yeah, you should buy yourself a pair. I have the white ones that I wear to every guard. Those who have been to a guard have seen me wear them. I also have another pair. They're a red pair. I haven't taken those out because they're not high tops, and I personally think I just don't quite look as cool on them. But the gold sneakers.
Orange ones?
No, they're red ones. I didn't get the Bitcoin ones.
Do they have Bitcoin ones?
Yeah, they have Bitcoin ones. When these gold sneakers, the high tops, first one on sale, I had them in my cart. I was like, it was right when they first launched, and then my kids needed me like, I had to go wipe one of their asses or something. I don't remember. And I came back and they were already sold out. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
And one of our buddies got.
Oh, yeah. He got a signed pair, right? Yep.
Yeah. So I was pissed.
That was
but
awesome.
Out of anger and kind of like depression, I bought the red low top ones that were available at the same time. And then later I bought the ones with Trump doing the fight on it. And those are the ones.
Are the gold ones still gone?
Well, no,
there's new ones.
They're back now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. These are back now. Yeah, these aren't just shoes, guys. These are a full-on statement. Bold, fearless, and unapologetically patriotic. Just look at them. The gold finish, the red, white, and blue accents. It's like wearing a piece of American pride right on your feet. And let me tell you, they don't just look good. They feel good. The quality is legit, comfortable, durable, and surprisingly lightweight. Just make sure you guys get them in the right size because that's the mistake I made with the Fight ones I have. I had to get them a size small because they didn't have my size available. They sold out my size. And that's what I wear to all the guards. So wearing those 8-hour, wearing any shoe size, a size too small, not a bright idea. But that's my own stupidity. These are a great gift for anybody who love these in your life, any major Trump supporter or gold lover, badlandsgold.com. The best part, each pair is part of a limited run, so you're not getting some mass-produced junk. These are numbered, exclusive, and designed to make a statement. If this sounds like your vibe, or you're already picturing someone in your life who'd flip for these, go check them out our Badlands audience gets a special discount at themegaoffers.com/Badlands. That's the mega offers, MAGA, at megaoffers.com/Badlands. 15% off your order if you guys do it this way. Don't wait too long. They're going fast. Own a piece of the movement and step into something legendary. All right. Can't wait to get those. Anyway, man. Okay, now we can talk Epstein all you want. So the latest update was Trump's comments today. He had a True Social post this morning, and he kind of doubled down on the fakeness of what's in there. We should probably just read this thing.
Yeah. It's not as long as his first one.
No, but it still is a little long. The radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again, just like with the fake and fully discredited Steele dossier, the Line 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, which the Dems swore had come from Russia. No, it came from Hunter Biden's bathroom. And even the Russia scam itself, a totally fake and made up story used in order to hide crooked Hillary Clinton's big loss in the 2016 presidential election. These scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. It's all they have. They're no good at governing, no good at policy, and no good at picking winning candidates. Also, unlike Republicans, they stick together like glue. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. I've had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history, and all these people want to talk about, with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems, is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these winklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success, because I don't want their support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Man, what a doozy. It's calling it a hoax, and this is kind of what I've been saying, guys. The way those other hoaxes were all perpetrated. They were narrative weapons essentially used in participation with the media to accomplish a goal. The goal in those cases were to delegitimize Trump, right? He's equating the Epstein list, client list, whatever, the Epstein quagmire, to that of these. It was a narrative weapon. That's how I'm reading into this. If you take it at face value, which you should never do because it's Trump and he's always doing psyops, but just toying with the idea that he's being legitimate with it, that's what he's saying it is. It's a narrative weapon. And people do not like hearing that from Trump. But he could be telling the truth too. It's just crazy. People are losing their minds over it. People on social media are freaking out. But it's all the people that fell victim to the Binder hoax. I did something interesting today too. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pass it to you first, and then I'll come back and talk about what I did interesting today.
There's a lot of angles to this. I guess just a baseline, though, before we go down those rabbit trails, is I mentioned this. Chris and I did the girl with the dragon tattoo last night on Story Hour, and that's, that's very thematically oriented around this kind of stuff. Some elites on an island, missing girls, etc. And one of the things I had said then was kind of what you just alluded to, which is that as much as myself included, we sometimes do this thing where whether we're talking bicamerally or we're just using game theory and trying to figure out the chaos, we recognize that Trump does speak to multiple audiences. I think we all believe that. Like, everyone watching this show believes that Trump doesn't always just say things at face value. So often, there's not a lot of analysis required typically to take everything at face value. There wouldn't be nobody would have found their way into this InfoWar thing, or even know there is one, if there wasn't use in looking at things not at face value, right? I mean, if you looked at everything at face value, you would have accepted every narrative. But to your other point, I do think that sometimes we don't do enough gaming out what if Trump is just saying the thing very directly here, right? And I think that a lot of people, myself included, think that they do that. They're like, oh yeah, well, he could be telling the truth, but this is the much more exciting reading of the situation, so let's talk about that reading of it. I certainly am game to do that here. I do not feel confident in taking his statements on Epstein at face value. I do understand, even besides like Q stuff and whether you're a Q person or not, he's so bombastic with these statements that it's almost comical. But the other thing is that it makes sense. What he's saying makes sense. And I'm going to use the correct version of the saying. I think you can have your cake and eat it too here, because there was another statement that Trump made.
Is that the correct way?
No, I said it the correct way. You say it the wrong way.
We already went over this, man. We already went over
I know,
this.
but I'm psyoping it. So Trump, there was a clip going around today where Trump said, he was asked about this again, and he said, sordid but boring. He said this whole thing is boring. The narrative is boring. And then he said it's sordid but it's boring. And I really kind of like the way he's framing it that way, because he doesn't necessarily have to be calling the Epstein thing fake. There's a lot of ways to read this. It could be an entirely invented narrative meant specifically to do what he's claiming it does there, but you don't need it to be fake to have the effects that Trump is saying it had, right? Like, you could have an elite billionaire involved in trafficking rings, which according to law, according to the cases, that's what was going on. Trump hasn't refuted any of that, by the way. He's not refuted anything in terms of the charges against Maxwell, against Epstein, and all that. He's not saying any of that's fake, which is what I think the community, the truth community, is getting caught in this binary where they're like, either Pizzagate, Epstein, ripping kids' faces off, like Kevin Spacey, blah, blah, blah. All of that is true, as we have believed it is true, or none of it is true. And I don't think that's what Trump is saying. I think he's saying, yeah, there's a creeper billionaire on this island that was involved in this stuff, but that what my supporters, or many of them, believe was going on there has been amplified and weaponized. And I don't think that's a binary. I think it's important to take what he's saying seriously. And I also think that there's some encouraging ways to look at this, we can get to in a little bit. But, you know, I don't think for a second it's a coincidence that they're covering up the Epstein narrative with the DOJ and firing Comey's and all, and the Russiagate narratives. Like, he's bringing Russiagate into this because that would be what you'd ostensibly be covering if you were the deep state and you were injecting these poison pills into these sensational conspiracy theories. Why would you be doing that? Well, he's trying to give you a lot of hints as to why they'd be doing it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is an interesting thing it's a contradiction, right? You can't say on one hand that he's covering up for the deep state while they're opening an investigation. I guess we haven't seen that investigation yet. We don't know where it's going to go. But while he's opening up that RICO investigation into the deep state, when we do feel like there could potentially be overlap with some of the actors who Trump is saying is pulling the strings behind him, right? Mm-hmm. Intelligence community, whatever. I do want to play that clip that you talked about from right next to an airplane, so it's going to be super loud, but it's worth listening to.
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was.
And this is a question we all should ponder. Been saying this too. Why is there such a large portion of the community who are so interested in specifically this instance of trafficking, when Trump has been tackling human trafficking to the tunes of thousands and thousands of kids since his first administration? Like, I'm pretty sure I haven't seen, I haven't been around politics or following politics for that long, but what Trump did in his first term with tackling human trafficking and what he's done in his second term so far, shutting down the border and what that's done on human trafficking, I mean, it's been incredible. And yet people are so hyper-focused on this one case. This is a legitimate question, is why is that such a thing? And I'm going to keep playing it here, unless you have something to add.
We can maybe play it after if it's relevant, but I had seen that Clay Higgins was basically making the point you just did and talking about the NGOs facilitating trafficking across the border. So, but we can do like a segment on that, because I think think that wraps into all of this and why Trump's communicating this way, to your point.
Yeah, we should talk. Ash texted me that, but I haven't had a chance to watch it, so that's good.
Yeah.
Let's finish this then.
Never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
I mean, it's almost clownish, like how over the top. I mean, because he knows why his base is so interested in this, and is it because he wants people to keep like hounding him? The more he tries to get people to drop this topic and story, the more the media is going to keep asking about it. Like, they're never going to shut up. But it is interesting. Like, I've been saying for a little while now, like, hey guys, who's been pushing this? Trump has not been the one who ever pushed this throughout his entire term. He didn't campaign on releasing the Epstein stuff. It wasn't, he only ever talked about it when he was asked a question. It was never him bringing it up unprompted. And that got me actually thinking. Today I did a little discussion with Grok. I was like, where did the phrase "the most transparent administration in history" actually come from? Because, I mean, if you just think a little game theory, if you wanted to divide the movement, you wouldn't have pictured a better way than this. And everybody's like they're using that as an attack vector on Trump right now. One, he campaigned and promised he was going to release the Epstein files. That's not true. And then it's like, well, this isn't transparency. I've even done that one. It's like, so much for maybe the real transparency is the friends we made along the way, right? Like, joking about it.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, like, where did that come from? And I went back and looked, and it didn't originate from Trump, which that's a notable data point. And, maybe it's not a big deal to some people because he has, I think, talked about being the most transparent, but he wasn't the one who started it. He wasn't the one who ran with that phrase. It was other people in his administration. And that's interesting. That's a notable data point. But yeah, this this thing isn't going away, and it's hard to read what Trump is really doing. Like, part of me wants to think that he's doing this on purpose to, get people more interested in asking and all these things, and then he can do a special counsel, and this was the justification for it, and then maybe something weird comes out of the Epstein files. But also, if you're Trump, like, how would you respond when you're continually asked these questions? Like, how are you going to respond if he's being honest and doesn't want these things to be discussing more because there is nothing in them, or the file's been destroyed, or it's been tampered with, and so I don't know. Yeah. But how else would you respond? So I don't know, man.
Yeah, and we don't know, and this is why. But I also think it's fun. The last question you asked there, I think, is a really interesting one, and it's one I've really been kind of racking my brain because it's funny. If you look at scenario, there's more than scenario A and B, but for the sake of binary here, if scenario A is largely that Trump is amplifying the narrative of Epstein to draw in enemies to the Trump quicksand. I've mentioned anecdotally, maybe on a show, maybe not, but this is getting into the liberal sphere, the normie sphere, and they are now attacking Trump for this. It's not just the media. Normie liberals are like, oh, I guess he was the pedophile. I saw a very viral, with all the caveats out of the way about like what's real and what's not on social media, very viral meme going around liberal social media of like MAGA at a fork in the road, defend Trump, defend pedophiles. Like, and that's the kind of meme that we would have seen in the truth community circa 2018, right? Complete opposite. And they're now trying to use it against Trump. So this is reaching Trump haters. There are already people who hate him, etc. So I can totally engage with the idea that, man, anytime in the past we have seen Trump kind of amplify something that gets an entire side of the info war just going all in against him, it ends up being kind of a rug on them. Now, maybe it's what you mentioned there, like maybe there is something in the Epstein files and he's looking for the public mandate to act surprised when it gets unearthed and it boomerangs back on the enemy. I can engage with that. But the other point you made is also a question that is worth asking, which is, if you imagine that that is not the case and that we were wrong about aspects of this, how would Trump communicate that? And I think you've mentioned this in the last week or so, but it is interesting that the way Kash Patel framed this stuff on the Joe Rogan podcast, kind of, it's in line with that reading of things. It's again, not saying that nothing happened with Epstein. Kash didn't make that claim either, that none of this was real. But he didn't just say it's not necessarily what everybody thinks it is, but he specifically referenced people's emotions, which you were talking about, and saying like, yeah, we're kind of in a tough situation because there are expectations that our hardcore, real, genuine supporters have, but that we maybe didn't give them. Now, I think the debate, as we discussed on the last show, the debate can come in, the fair debate can come in, did you guys not amplify this? I think a lot of the stuff you've been digging up in the last week in terms of timelines, narrative timelines, is really important, and it does change how you view these things. For example, the fact that, you know, Trump brought it up at CPAC, but he was already drafting off of a narrative that he did not inject. That's important. But it's also important to be honest about the fact that he did amplify it at times very directly and use it as a political weapon against the Clintons. And specifically,
just
as we
while campaigning, though.
That's fair. I'm just saying, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Like, if they want, I should say my sympathy for how upset they are that their audience and supporters are really enthralled by this Epstein narrative, is it runs out quickly because, yeah, during the campaign trail, you want everybody to take you seriously, etc. You use this as this massive nuke against Bill Clinton. You know the implications that has in people's minds for them to think it is something much larger.
Can I interject there? Because my only I guess counterpoint to that would be, is that was before he was in office and before technically he would have had any access to any inside information. And knowing how Trump interjects and controls the narrative, if this was a narrative he wanted people to focus in on, we would have seen him pushing it any time during his administration. Anytime. We have not seen him push the narrative since January 20th of 2017. It's not been done once. It's only ever been in a question and interview. That is something that needs to be talked. Like, the way Trump operates, when he wants to talk about something, he makes it a memeable moment, like build the wall, mega, China, like all these different things. Like he can make the media talk about things when he wants them to talk about it. He did not do that with the Epstein files.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm more making the point of, you said a few minutes ago, the one thing we can say with certainty is, even if you take everything he's saying in these statements at face value, like he is just telling us the truth, pretending not to know why his audience is engaged in this narrative is silly. Like, everybody acknowledges that. Now, I can understand why he's doing that, because he's saying, hey, we are not the ones who amplified this, but he knows who did. But either way, you know, I still think that the more fascinating thing to do here is to engage with him directly, like go down that rabbit hole, and then, as we always say in these scenarios, start seeing what would map, what would logically map in that scenario. And I think too many people are so emotionally focused on the Epstein thing and what their presuppositions were about it, myself included in the past. I hold myself entirely in this group, but I've actually found it almost freeing and fascinating to go down just the path he is laying out here and say, okay, he's not only saying this isn't what you said it was, he is what you thought it was. He's saying this is a psyop by the bad guys, and he's directly conflating it with Russiagate, Russia collusion, and the 2020 election. And then the day after he does it, the day he does that, rather, we get John Solomon with a bunch of banger quotes where he is saying not just narrative terminology, but legal terminology such as grand conspiracy, part of the overarching large-scale plot. And he's talking about Russiagate, he's talking about the 2020 election, and Solomon is saying that in response to questions about Epstein. So this isn't me saying, oh, it all goes back to Epstein. I think that it's interesting to engage with this and say, people in our audience or people in the Q community are like, well, why if Trump would talk about the ancient practice of sex trafficking and how big a deal this is, why would he all of a sudden be distancing from this? And as you said earlier, if Trump is trying to go after the real issues of trafficking and how large scale it is, and he's having huge success with that, which they're amplifying over the last couple of days, if you're the enemy, what do you want to do? You want to introduce poison pills. It's like, it's the oldest trick in the satanic book. Accuse the enemy that which you are guilty, right? So that's the why. And, the encouraging button I would put on that is, if the investigation into Russia collusion does actually go somewhere, and if Solomon is telling the truth that the sort of accountability the MAGA base has wanted is coming, just maybe not on the Epstein thing you thought, it is signal. If this investigation supposedly going forward, you've got Maureen Comey getting fired, and then you loop that back into what Trump is saying about people injecting this Epstein narrative. Well, who would have injected it? It would be the same people, right? So it's the same people that did Russiagate, the same people that did the Hunter Biden laptop, as he said in that post, the same people that he's firing, which are the same people that handled the Epstein files. So it's kind of like, yeah, it might not be. This is why I think it's kind of a win-win, because even if the Epstein thing is not what we thought it was, and we were psyoped on some of that, Trump might expose that psyop in a legal forum, not just him saying it on TV.
I mean, maybe like that's the hope. It's also, we don't know for sure that's going to happen. Some people speculate that there's overlap. Like the Epstein investigation is going to wrap up into this RICO investigation. I don't think that's the case. It's possible, certainly. I don't think that's the case. But, one of the more interesting things I'm seeing too is like there was a 4-year period of the Biden administration where not a single person online was upset that the Biden administration was not putting out these files. Like Charlie Kirk yesterday put out this list of like 10 things that the Trump administration has to do related to the releasing these Epstein files. Where was that? Where were you trying to manufacture consensus about releasing the Epstein files as a damaging narrative weapon against the Biden administration? They didn't do it. None of these people were upset or damaging, trying to damage the Biden administration with transparency and all this stuff, but they're doing it against Trump right now. And that's interesting. Like, why is that? And I even asked that question today. It's like, oh, well, because they can actually control Trump and like get Trump to do it. I don't think that's actually the case. I think that's more of an exposure against Charlie Kirk and people like that who think they can do that, but these are the people that never got kicked off YouTube for saying the wrong things. They never got demonetized. They never got kicked off of Twitter for saying the wrong things. I had another guy respond to me when I posted that. It's like, well, where were you calling that during the Biden administration? I don't see any posts from you like for 3 years. I was like, I was fucking banned from Twitter for 3 years, bro. That's why. But Charlie Kirk wasn't. And you don't see a single post about him demanding, a 10 point list of things that the Biden administration needs to do about releasing the Epstein files. Like those are legitimate questions that we should be asking. I know everybody wants to see what's in here in these files, and they're probably rightfully so. Like for whatever reason, it's a big thing. Trump could just come out and release it. But here's the thing. Maybe they did. Maybe they already released what they can that isn't tied up in Ghislaine's trial, isn't going to expose victims' names, isn't going to, show actual child porn. Maybe we have everything we already can get. Maybe there's more too. I don't know. They said they're looking at it again. But then, okay, so here's another question. If they do expose that there's more in there, that's another weapon right there that they can say that, oh yeah, the Biden or the Trump administration with Bondi, Cash, and Bongino, they did cover stuff up, because now we're getting more when they said there wasn't more. So now there's a cover up. Like, this is why I'm so skeptical we're going to get anything more, because I don't see how it's a win for Trump if there's nothing actually in there.
I agree with that point in terms of it would look bad on the surface if there was more. If they all of a sudden are like, oh, found it, like it was in the 6th drawer instead of the 5th drawer. Here it is. Here's like Bill on the island. I agree that would look awful. It would narratively, it would codify the arguments being made against Trump administration. My caveat to that loops into the point I was trying to make and not making very well about the DOJ and this larger...
you sucked at that.
this larger conspiracy, but that is... the movie Watchmen has been on my mind for the last week because the themes of that movie are so relevant to just patriot psyops and the war of psyops, etc. But one of the things I've been thinking about is that, the line, who watches the Watchmen? And if Trump is firing DOJ officials who were involved in these cases, Comey, right? And he Sorry?
Maureen Comey.
James Comey's daughter. But he formerly fired, obviously, James Comey as well. So there's obviously a thread there. A lot of the audience, a lot of the truther audience automatically ties that to, he's telling you in so many words that there is smoke to the fire in the Epstein files. And maybe that's true. But another reading of it is that everything Trump is telling us about, hey, this is a poison pill. He didn't use the term poison pill, but that's essentially what he's saying, especially in that first post he made. This is a poison psyop. This is a pill that has been used against my audience. Well, if he is firing and has basically gone to war with DOJ officials who were literally in charge of those cases, meaning that they were in charge of the files in those cases, people could be right, but they're coming to the wrong conclusions. What I mean by that is Trump could be trying to expose the Epstein files, but he's exposing the people who injected this whole narrative, right? Like, what if it turns out that the Comeys had a lot to do with concocting the conspiracy theory of Epstein and Epstein Island and all that kind of stuff the whole time? And, that's why he could be telling us something directly, but people are still coming to the wrong conclusion of saying, he knows what's really in the files. Yeah, maybe he knows what's really in the files is fake, and he knows who put it there. And that's part of what this is all about, right? I mean, the reason he's bringing up Russiagate isn't just because that was against him in the campaign. It's because it was fake evidence. It's treason that was used to try to frame a presidential candidate. So the Epstein thing would be where I think that thread could connect is not Epstein Island. It's the DOJ. Was a corrupt DOJ planting all sorts of different things. And one of the bombs was Russiagate. One of them was the 51 intelligence officials. One of them was Epstein. And it makes sense that they would lay a bunch of landmines in the hopes of stopping Trump, right?
Yep.
So again, it's not like you're going to get that all laid out, but I think it's entirely possible that I don't think it's a coincidence that he's basically going after the DOJ while also saying that there's no larger conspiracy with the Epstein files. Those things could both be true.
It definitely could be. Definitely could be. But it doesn't help put out any of the fires when you fired the lead prosecutor of Epstein's case, Maureen Comey, which happened tonight. Like she's fired now. I'll show you the article here, and then we'll do the Higgins thing. My dad went back to the baseball field. My mom was watching, heard that I left my glasses at the baseball field. My dad went back and got them for me. How awesome is that?
What a great dad.
Oh man, he smudged them though. What the hell? Thanks, Dad. No, but for real, thank you, Dad.
Just walk into your domicile with your glasses?
No, my girlfriend put them on. He dropped them off and she brought them to me. So team effort. But I want to play the Higgins clip after this. But yeah, so Maureen Comey, federal prosecutor in Epstein case and Diddy case, by the way, fired from U.S. Attorney's Office. The reason for her firing was not immediately clear, but a person familiar with the situation said being a Comey is untenable in this administration, given her father, James Comey, is constantly going after the administration. Her dismissal comes as Trump faces growing pressure to release more information on Epstein, the disgraced financier. The Justice Department last week released a memo. We all know that. We all know Epstein's background. She was the lead prosecutor on the investigation and prosecution of Epstein and his former girlfriend and accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell was convicted and is serving a 20-year sentence. She has appealed. So who knows? Maybe Maureen Comey did hide evidence or put false evidence in there or something. This is not going to help the people. Like, okay, you fired Maureen Comey. She must have been the one hiding documents, withholding documents. Now let's see the files. And then what happens if they rug us again? Probably not going to
Well,
go
what I meant though is that, again, I think most people in the truth community's assumption would be that if she had anything to do with the Epstein files in a nefarious manner, it's hiding evidence. But as you also suggested, the other reading of that might be more in line with what Trump is saying in the injection of information or the injection of the entire narrative itself. This wouldn't be the first. Again, this is why both things can be true. Epstein was this billionaire financier. His money origins are extremely mysterious. He does have connections to Intel, or people around him have connections to Intel and all that kind of stuff. Like, all of those things are true. There's a lot of smoke to the fire there. But one of the things I've been writing notes about, sort of an article I want to write about all this, but letting it settle, like letting the info war settle a bit. One of the things I'd written down there was maybe we're focusing so much on the why, that Epstein is this big why, as in Epstein represents the end game of a lot of what truth community people search for. In other words, why does the deep state do what they do? Why do they exist? And it's like, oh, well, the end of the road is that they're a bunch of sickos and there's these sick people and this is kind of what they do. But I started playing with that as, what if Epstein is just a how? Meaning, maybe he was a blackmail operator. Maybe he was gathering information on these elites. He was trying to compromise people. But that part of what Trump is getting at here is that when he's saying it's boring, that made me think of that. It made me think, like, Trump is not saying there's nothing there. But to your earlier point, he's saying, yeah, you've seen what's there. He was a creepy billionaire trying to entrap people on an island. And he was one of so many that did that, which pales in comparison to, was it Mike Davis, is that his name, who put out that tweet a couple of days ago? I don't know if you were the one who brought that up, when he's talking about, hey, nobody wanted to talk about 300,000 missing children that are railing about the Epstein narrative. It's all to say, part of why Trump could be annoyed about this is saying Epstein is this one little thing and a vast web that is on an industrial scale where you've got hundreds of thousands of victims a year in human trafficking, a massive industry that he called in press conferences a few years ago an ancient practice that is still going on. Everyone automatically thinks of Epstein Island and the temple when he's talking about that, but he's talking about what's just coming across the border en masse. And just newsflash, this is something that we all need to kind of like, unfortunately, get through our heads. When there are that many victims that even law enforcement is telling you there are, it's not just rich people on islands that are engaged in this stuff. If there are tens of thousands of victims, there are tens of thousands of perpetrators. And if you Google child trafficking ring sting, you're going to find stuff every single month of 60 people getting rolled up in Florida, etc. And maybe that's part of why Trump is so frustrated, is because he's saying, we have been fighting this war. We are getting results on the real war here. But all you want to do is talk about this one guy on this one island that is, kind of an afterthought.
I do have another clip. I think this is from John Solomon tonight. He interviewed Trump, and I think this is Trump's comments on it as well.
Prosecutor look at it all, would that make you feel good, you think?
Well, I think it's in the case of Epstein, they've already looked at it, and they are looking at it, and I think all they have to do is put out anything credible. But, that was run by the Biden administration for 4 years. I can imagine what they put into files, just like they did with the others. I mean, the Steele dossier was a total fake.
Right.
It took 2 years to figure that out for the people. And all of the things that you mentioned were fake. Yeah. So I would imagine if they were run by Chris Wray and they were run by Comey, and because it was actually even before that administration, they've been running these files. And so much of the things that we found were fake with me, but especially you look at that Steele dossier where they paid like 14 or 16 million. That's more than James Patterson gets paid to do a #1 bestseller. And the thing turned out to be a total scam. So frankly, I think I love that they're looking at all this stuff. If they are, I hope they are.
I mean, it's interesting. Again, he talks about stuff being fabricated and placed in there. like the Biden administration had their hands on it. I love how he is essentially calling the entire intelligence community bullshit, fake and gay. And I think that's a great thing because more people need to recognize that fact. It's so true. These people have become so powerful. They use blackmail and all sorts of other bullshit as weapons, just like anybody else. You know, we think Epstein's a problem with blackmail and all these things. Imagine what the intelligence community has been doing. It's far worse and more pervasive, and it's not just here; it's everywhere. They've basically been the ones dictating the direction of the country for who knows how long. Trump's been the one that disrupted that. Remember that Schumer clip? If you go after the intelligence community, they got 7 different ways of getting back at you.
Yep.
This is an example of that. And so, yeah, maybe when you talk about the RICO case and how it does rope into the Epstein stuff, this could be it. It's the intelligence community. They've been the problem. They need to be dealt with. And it's not just the intelligence community here. It's intelligence communities all over the world. It's its own little network, Mossad and all those other faggots. I think it's so interesting.
Yeah.
They're the target now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I want to make another point about the Epstein narrative as well, because I saw a couple of people saying this in chat, and I largely agree. You know, I talk about narrative all the time, specifically symbols and ciphers, templates, that sort of thing. And the thing that I think is encouraging about the Epstein narrative, even the fact that it has been amplified so much, and I'm saying, assuming that we're taking Trump at face value here, for the sake of argument, let's do that. He's talking about how amplified this all was. This is a same sort of thing I've said in the past about 9/11. Like when I was a liberal, I got sucked down the 9/11 truth rabbit hole. And while I didn't fully awaken going down that rabbit hole because there was a lot of traps in there of like, oh, the Obamas are going to stop the evil Bushes. It's still an example of sort of Overton's goalpost type of thing, where when the enemy is putting out psyops like this, it's the sign of a losing side. So that's just to say, if we want to take Trump at face value and just go to the ultimate ends with that and say the Epstein narrative as we understand it is a poisonous psyop designed to confuse the MAGA base, to incriminate Trump or conflate him with this, or what we're seeing right now, as you're pointing out, damage his reputation with transparency and all the rest of it. Let's assume that that was the origins and the point of the Epstein narrative op. It still had the effect on people like me and so many others of just making us dig more into this whole idea of trafficking rings and how ubiquitous it was. And while there are people that are going to just kind of stay there and will not take anything, they're not going to accept what Trump is saying right now, there are so many more of us that are now like, okay, well, I'm not unhappy that I learned about all that Epstein stuff because I think it was important to learn about, even if I was wrong about a lot of it, even if there were psyops threaded into it. And this is why when there's a poison pill narrative, it doesn't mean the enemy entirely invented the narrative. It means that you're getting close to something and they're trying to get you off the scent, right? So I think the good thing about Epstein as this big narrative is that it got basically trafficking to be this massive topic over the last decade in American culture, where it really was not before that. And I don't think, even if these elites are not all directly engaged in trafficking, we've also gotten enough smoke, including from Trump himself, that their industries and their NGOs, as people in his administration are saying, did benefit hugely from trafficking. So this wasn't their first choice. Like the Epstein narrative, if it was theirs, if it was the intel agencies that planted this kind of stuff or poisoned it, that's the sign of panic. That's the sign of like, well, they're getting close to some shit here. Let's blame it all on Trump. So even then, it doesn't seem like, it seems like a bunch of panicky moves, all these different narratives they've tried to throw at him and see what sticks.
Yeah. How many times have you heard stories of people just all of a sudden getting child porn on their computer, and it's alleged that somebody put it there to like take him out. What if there's stuff like that in these Epstein files? But the issue, I think, with specifically the Epstein files, I agree with most of what you said there, but this issue has grown to such a degree. Just the Epstein, like I'm not talking child pedophilia. I mean, it's obviously an awful thing, and Trump is tackling that. But I'm saying just the lore. That's the word I've seen thrown around about it. I think it was Kash Patel who first said that. The lore around the Epstein stuff is such that if people don't get exactly what their preconceived notions tell them are in the Epstein files, that could be a very damaging thing, I think, depending on how many people there are. And there is a large number I see in the chat, I see it on social media, like everywhere. And I mean, I hate to say it, but like a lot of this comes from the Q drops, right? And there are some Q influencers online, Q decoders, who are struggling to maintain the narrative, and a lot of them have turned it to just, okay, well, let's not talk about Epstein more. Let's just attack Badlands media. But it's a weird twist how that works. But I see it as an issue that if we don't get like some sort of resolution to this topic at some point, if it doesn't end up feeding the confirmation bias or the preconceived notion or whatever is that created it in the first place, what's going to be the long-term effect that it has on the movement generally? And that's my biggest concern. That was my concern from day one when I first went at the day of Kash Patel's interview, when it came out and he was like, I don't think we're going to get what you think it's going to be. I was like, I'm worried for the movement because I don't think a lot of people here are going to take that well. If that's what if this ends up being a rug, it's gonna break some minds. And I think we're seeing glimpses of that. And I still think we just need to be prepared for a full spectrum of possibilities because we don't know what's in the files, and nobody can claim to know for sure what's in them. Or as Chris Paul has been saying, if you did know, you wouldn't be demanding for the files, right? So because we don't know what's in the files, we have to be prepared for a full spectrum of possibilities. It could be literally nothing and fake stuff, as Trump is saying. It could be everything that we dreamed of and have been promised from whatever source of information you get it from. And I don't know what's legit or what was originally there or what's fake or what's not. None of us know. And so we don't know how this is going to play out. You just have to be prepared mentally for a full spectrum. And I don't want people to like be accusing Trump of a cover-up when we don't know if that's actually what's going to happen.
I would also say that it's a good thing we are all on the spectrum, because that's the only way to deal with this kind of thing. No, but I totally agree with that. And I would say too, one of the other points Chris is making on that kind of line is we also, I know this gets overblown and said maybe often in recent weeks, but we are currently in a digital battle space where we have seen AI video that is indistinguishable completely from reality, right? So we are already operating in a battle space that even if we get disclosure, we will not be able to verify to any degree of satisfaction. So maybe to our own satisfaction we could, right? Like if the everything you're talking about of people getting emotionally attached to these narratives, if quote unquote disclosure and evidence comes out that people want to come out and it goes in line with their preconceived notions and biases that we bring into these things, they're going to accept it. Do I think all of a sudden all of the liberal sphere, never Trump sphere, is just going to accept whatever the Trump team puts out about the Epstein files after saying, to your point, that there was nothing there, there was nothing more there? What are they going to now come? They're now going to come out and say, oh, actually, guys, we got footage of Bill Clinton, we got Hillary there, we got Kevin Spacey, we got Bill Gates, we got all the stuff you ever thought there was, and here it is. Can you imagine the people who have been accusing Trump of hiding all that stuff? Like the MAGA base thinks, oh, they're all going to have egg on their face. That's not what's going to happen. What would happen is they're all going to go, they just made all this shit up because they got egg on their face publicly and said there wasn't anything there. And then you found it. Would you find it in the back room? And it just so happened to appease your whole audience? You have to be able to make, when you say the full spectrum, you have to be able to not support the devil's advocate argument of what's the other side going to think, but you have to understand what they will react to. And if we actually are trying to move into this transparency, unification, as much as we can, of American society, that sort of if that's the kind of game they're playing of like, oh, we don't have it, we do have it, here's some stuff, here doesn't exist, does exist, that's not going to convince anybody who is not already convinced of what they want to be in those files, right? There is nobody on the fence that is going to go, now I 100% believe you, because you said there was nothing there until a week later you said, actually, here's all the stuff you ever dreamed of. We were just joking last week. my assistant didn't tell me what was actually in there. I'm the most powerful man in the world and the most informed, but I just didn't know. Like, it wouldn't play right. So these are some of the, when you're talking about spectrum and full spectrum analysis, you have to play out what would be the purpose of holding that stuff back, and would it have the effects that you think it would? I don't necessarily think it would have the effects you think. And conversely, if Trump is trying to explain what are the effects of thinking things that are not true and clinging to those things, ignoring all of the wins we are getting, which you can tell does actually seem to be frustrating the administration right now, where they're like, did you guys see the $75 billion in Pittsburgh? Did you see like no border apprehensions in the last 30 days? Did you see this and this and this and this? And everyone's like, no, we really want to know what's in that thing that Benny Johnson is driving at on Twitter. That's what's the most important.
Yeah, and here's an interesting question too. And again, I'm a big fan this last couple of weeks of saying things that the chat does not want to hear. So this is another one probably. Does Trump really? Okay, so let's just say he doesn't disclose any more of the Epstein files. It doesn't meet the expectations of a lot of the people. If Trump fixes elections, it would. Let's say Trump fixes the elections before the midterms and we have a legitimate election, whatever that looks like. I have no idea. Let's just pretend, hypothetically speaking. Is Trump mishandling of these Epstein file situation going to lose him and the Republicans, the midterms, the people with R's next to their names, as Chris says, the midterms, if his economic stuff is kicking off? Like, do people outside of our community, our bubble, the Twitter bubble, do they care as much about the Epstein quagmire as they do their own personal pocketbooks and their own personal day-to-day lives? Like, genuine question. And I don't even know if I fully thought this question through myself, and I don't know if I have an answer to it. But if I'm just thinking of my friends in my normie bubble, like, they look at the Epstein thing and they kind of think it as, oh, so like there's no Epstein, or Epstein, there's no more files. Like, what? Like, Trump calls a hoax. Like, what? But if they're doing better economically and their personal day-to-day lives are doing better, they don't care. The Epstein files are not a matter that matters to them enough where it's going to change their election and vote for anybody else in the midterms. And so I wonder if Trump is also kind of hinting at that kind of point. Like, he said in that post earlier, shoot, I should have kept it up. Hold on. He said a line in that post at the end where he's like, let these weaklings continue forward and do Democrats' work. Don't even think about I don't want their support anymore. Like, so he's basically saying, I don't want or care for your support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I mean, how else do you read that? Unless does Trump no longer have the mandate because he's not giving the people what they want in the Epstein files? A narrative story that the influencers online made into what it is today. I know people don't like hearing that either, but again, going back to my point of Trump was never the one to push the narrative, that aspect is true. Can't argue with it.
Yeah, the biggest thing too, I had mentioned Benny Johnson as an example just because he's the one I can't stand the most. But I saw him not just calling for this stuff, but you referenced this earlier, doing victory laps when there are reports coming out that Trump would look into appointing a special prosecutor. Now, what's interesting is that those reports, he's talking about the grand conspiracy into the FBI and the DOJ that John Solomon's referring to. But he also said, yeah, and also, sure, the Epstein stuff too. So like he allowed that when he was questioned about it. But Benny Johnson and Charlie Kirk and them are giving themselves, victory laps by taking credit for moving Trump in that direction. And when you see that, now this is a particularly subversive op, I think, because a lot of what we talk about is public mandate, and we talk about that we in the MAGA base are the public mandate. Trump is, as you and Chris talk about a lot, he's kind of reflecting that. He's in that feedback loop with the American people. I firmly believe in that, and I do believe we need to make our voices heard. We need to demand accountability. We need to demand these things, right? I agree with that. But when you see influencers taking credit for moving Trump in a certain direction while Trump is publicly telling you that he doesn't want to be moved in that direction, it doesn't really look like the American people moving him in that direction. It looks like some con ink influencers who are all the DeSantis guys, as you said earlier, and they're all the people that went against him during the Iran stuff. So these are sort of the markers that I look for. You know, we've said for years on the show, sometimes the opposite game is a good place to start, even if it's not where you end. And the first place I start with InfoWar narratives is what are people I consider enemy narrative factions saying? And the obvious one that we've kind of touched on tonight is, why do they want to talk about this so badly? Not just Charlie Kirk and Benny Johnson and the MAGA base, but CNN wants to talk about it. The New York Post wants to talk about it. All the YouTube culture war sphere wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to talk about it. And it's possible that means they all fell into the Trump quicksand. They fell into a trap. But it might not be in the way we think. It might be that he's trying to focus everybody on the DOJ, and that's also coming out, that there's these investigations. That's what he's talking about with special prosecutors, and nobody wants to talk about that. In fact, was it last Wednesday night, you played those clips with John Brennan and Mark Elias coaching the media in real time on how not to talk about that investigation, but they all want to talk about this one. It's like, again, you can't end your InfoWar analysis there, but you definitely need to start there and go, am I amplifying and arguing from the same position that CNN is right now? Because that might be a clue that Trump is actually telling you the truth here.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, because some people are like using that the other way, which it's good to look at it both ways. Some people are saying, like, you could look at it your way. The way you just framed it is, I'm making the same argument as CNN, but also Trump got CNN to make the same argument as the.
It could go either way.
You could look at it both ways there.
Yep.
And we won't know which way he actually wanted until it comes out. But if it is, I don't know. It's so interesting, and I'm just keeping myself open to both sides. I think we've probably talked this topic to death already.
Yeah.
So
but
maybe
I do think that's the key, though. How you ended it there is that what we're hitting on here. Well, no, I mean the two ways is that I think that a lot of us say that in the truth community, but we are seeing that there are people who play with opposite possibilities, and then there are people who say that, but then are like, this is the truth of the Epstein op, and that is what Trump is doing, and this is my reading of things. And they're not thinking of both sides. They're not thinking of it both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, which is important to do, guys, because this is such a good example of it. And I keep going back to what Chris Sexton is brilliant. You can't claim to know for sure what's in the files while also demanding that you need to see the files. Because if you knew what exactly was in the files, you wouldn't need to see them. And it's such a good point. So you have to look at it both ways. And one of those two ways, and maybe there's a spectrum of sorts, but those two readings of it, either you're making the same argument as CNN or CNN is making the same argument as you. Which way is it? But let's take a listen to Higgins here.
And according to my research, which will very soon be revealed next week, they've rescued so far 35,000 tender age kids. How you like that? Now, according to Ms. Hopper's research, which I find fascinating, everybody up here should, 70% of the documentation turned in by so-called sponsors, which were lined up by who? The NGOs. Through who? Primarily HHS. There's a pipeline, man. We fed a pipeline of tender age children into sex trafficking and slave labor into our country. We're finding these kids. We're tracking this fraudulent documents. You're right, Ms. Hopper. My research showed a little bit less, 65%. You said 70%. I'll go with 70. So be advised. Be advised. We are building out case files, criminal case files. We're interviewing these 35,000 kids, and we're finding out exactly what the hell happened, how they ended up in the nightmare where they were, and we're rescuing more. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. We're going to identify these children. We're locating these children. We're rescuing these children, and we're building out criminal files based upon the testimony of these young teenagers and the documentation of fraudulent vetting, and many of these NGO employees are going to find themselves wearing orange, be their new favorite color. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the indulgence. I yield.
Pretty sure that was from today.
Yes.
Or like very
Well, I
recently.
saw Ash post it today.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, do you want to?
No, you can go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's what I was trying to loop into earlier, and somebody who's supposedly watching this show saying, Trump brought up sex trafficking a lot. Yeah, one of the reasons Trump is telling you openly that he is supposedly pissed off about this specific narrative is because what Higgins is saying here is true. That no administration in American history has done more to stop sex trafficking network and crimes against children than the Trump administration. And instead of talking about the 300,000 children that have gone missing coming over the border, they want to talk about a financier, Epstein, and I was one of them, right? Guilty as charged, like fell all the way into that. If it was a PSYOP, I fell hook, line, and sinker for that.
Oh, you had me thinking for a second you were one of the people on the island. The way you said that.
No,
I was one of them.
Honey. Whoops. No, but I also saw another comment earlier, and Chris brought this up in our chat earlier. But I saw somebody say, "Oh, what's going around right now is that Howard Lutnick, lived next to an Epstein property in New York." And the commenter in our chat said, "Y'all got played." The people that come through and they're like, "You MAGA retards." But if you're looking to engage with Trump in an earnest manner at face value, just pretend he's telling you this at face value, as John is arguing, or at least saying is a possibility. What would be the purpose of that? Well, now look, all of a sudden, is Howard Lutnick on the list? Was Lutnick? Do you guys think that that's a narrative that is good for the Trump administration? Obviously not. And the media doesn't want to talk about what Higgins is ranting about there is all the real sex trafficking, but they do want you looking at where Howard Lutnick used to live and who did Donald Trump used to party with. And hey, isn't he a little handsy with those girls around that guy he used to party with? Like, we've seen this. So it's sensational. And meanwhile, the real war, the actual war against crimes against children is being won. Or either way, huge progress has been made there. I do hope that they are able to amplify that somehow, like really amplify that into the normie sphere. Like that is a way I could see the administration kind of coming off really well here, is to be like, look at what we've done.
When Charlie Kirk and Benny Johnson allow us to get that message out, that's when the Trump administration will get credit for that. But until then, it's the Epstein files. And that's such a good point, man. Like, all the good things and all the things Trump is doing about the issue that people are so upset about the Epstein files, they don't talk about it. They want to focus on the one issue where it's been set up to rug pull and divide the movement. And that's a serious question, is why people are focusing on one side and not the other, when at least make it hand in, like, both. Like, okay, on one hand, Trump is doing a great job here, but what's going on here? They're not doing that, though. They're focusing on the bad. And I know people are like protective of the people that like to watch, and that's fine. Like, if you like watching Charlie Kirk in the way, I don't care if you watch him, but when there's issues there, and especially in a narrative war, like when I see things that are clearly an op, like whatever the op is, we may not know, but we can recognize an op taking place around these Epstein files, and there are people participating in the op, and there are certain influencers that we can point to and be like, why are you behaving like this during this clear information war narrative op? And those are legitimate questions that you need to ask of the people that you follow, whether you continue to follow them or not. I do not care. But it's stuff like the Charlie Kirks of the world, the Benny Johnsons, all these people, especially every one of the people that got the binder gate, that is beginning to look more and more interesting, because every one of those people who got a binder are the ones on there too that are like, we need transparency. We need transparency. We need transparency. When they were out saying before, like they were made to look like fools, only to later be the ones demanding transparency. It's such a, maybe they did get rug pulled and the Bondi thing was a setup, or it was intentional to get them to this point to divide the movement. Like, whatever the op is, it is an op.
Yeah, and by the way, the person I happened to be referencing came back into chat to just take the mask fully off and say, his cabinet's full of Zionists, don't you understand? See, so that's the It's useful to use useful idiots like that, because you can see that if you get that sentiment writ large, that's the point of these poison pills, right? If you can get people questioning, why does Howard Lutnick live next to an Epstein property, and he did real estate deals with him, and he seems to have a lot of influence over Donald Trump. Hey, MAGA, I'm just asking, have you guys considered whether or not Donald Trump is just a Zionist Jew puppet? No, we haven't considered that, guys. We've never seen the narrative before. But this is ultimately what it gets to, right? It starts off with, why isn't Trump being transparent with us about this thing? And it ends with, Trump is owned by the Jews. And that's always where it ends, which is exactly the same place that the Iran-Israel narrative op was leading people to. So if you know where the narrative is going to lead you, and it's going to lead you to Trump is controlled, and you all got hoodwinked by the MAGA movement, that is probably not a Trump narrative. That is probably the very intel agencies that have been warring with him from the start. And as you said, we talk about being in a narrative war and an information war all the time. But I think people, again, sometimes us in the past, you get humbled in this info war. We've all been humbled in the war. And if you don't feel like you've ever been humbled in it, then you didn't pick up on it. You're one of the people we're talking about if you've never been humbled in the info war. So maybe that's what's going on this week. Trump's handing out a little bit of humble pie. And, I think it's good to take that. It's going to level you up and improve your discernment.
I wonder if humble pie is as tasty as key lime pie, which I had authentic key lime pie
is fantastic
for the first time.
What?
A couple of weeks ago, like authentic. I was in the Keys and had key lime pie. I didn't get like gas station key lime pie.
I know a restaurant locally that is better than Florida Keys key lime pie, even though it's not in Florida.
That sounds like bullshit, but also I don't care because it's not local to me. I'm not asking about your key lime pie. I'm asking about my key lime pie experience.
I'm a huge key lime pie fan.
Yeah, I can tell.
It's the goat of pies, I would say.
You didn't get that dad bod for no reason, bro.
Hey, it's in soft remission. It's transparency is the only way forward.
I do want to talk about this real quick. Something devolution-y here. A little while back in February, Anthony Tata was nominated to serve as the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel Readiness. Trump's first term around, Anthony Tata was nominated. What position was he nominated for again? Let me look that up quick. He was nominated for a position. He ended up, I think, withdrawing his initial nomination because of some of his based posts that he had. In Twitter posts and radio show appearances in 2017 and 2018, Tata repeatedly made the false claim that President Barack Obama was a Muslim and a terrorist leader, accused Obama of being an anti-Semite who wanted to destroy Israel and did not want to defeat ISIL, and claimed that the negotiation of the multilateral nuclear agreement with Iran was born by Obama's Islamic roots. Tata accused then President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama of being a borderline treasonous during Trump's transition in presidency. In August 2018, he accused former CIA Director John Brennan, a critic of Trump, of being a clear and present danger to the U.S. and called Brennan a communist on Fox and Friends. He repeatedly pushed the notion that a deep state cabal was working to undermine Trump, pushed false conspiracy theories that Brennan ordered the assassination of Trump, and on another occasion tweeted that at Brennan might be a good time to pick your poison: firing squad, public hanging, life sentence as prison bitch, or just suck on your pistol. Tata also referred to Islam as the most oppressive, violent religion, accused both Obama and former President Bill Clinton of being guilty of sedition and or treason, accused Obama of being a Manchurian candidate who supported Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood, and suggested that the left and Obama hates America. Tata also made various inflammatory Twitter posts attacking Democrat politicians Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters as violent extremists, and using a racist hashtag to criticize CNN journalist Don Lemon. Based as hell. Anyway, he announced his intent to nominate Tata for the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy in April of 2020. But because of all those posts, he ended up withdrawing that nomination on July 30th, 2020.
Too based for the job.
Yeah, on July 30th, 2020, Tata's confirmation hearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee was canceled just before it was set to begin. And the same day, they reportedly advised the committee the nomination was likely to be withdrawn. And then he was appointed for the official performing the duties. And so it was just like in there as he got put in later as acting obviously during the devolution period. Well, anyway, okay, so that's all the context you guys need, base as hell. Come back around to this term. He's nominated to serve as Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, and he got confirmed this morning. Ezra Cohen-Watnick put out this tweet, and I think this is pretty signal. Congratulations to my good friend and colleague, AJ Tata, on getting confirmed to be DoD USD of Personnel Readiness. Tony's confirmation marks a great day for DoD as it moves quickly to increase readiness and lethality and prioritize the well-being of our troops and their families. No one is better suited to do this job. And I just think it's super interesting, super notable. He got in this time around. He wasn't able to be confirmed in 2020. And then also Ezra calling him his good friend, I think is notable because as far as I could find, the only overlap they had was during the Devo period of, we're told, like 3 months, right? Just November to January. And maybe a little longer before that too, but
you couldn't find any overlap with them in the public realm after that, because we've talked about where a lot of these guys went in the Biden administration, and they were part of like America First Legal and a lot of these different outfits that we've discussed.
Yeah, I haven't actually. He was on the same board at Boundary Channel Partners with Chris Miller after they left, so that was interesting. But I did not see any overlap between Ezra and Tata.
Yeah,
but I think this is kind of funny, considering the news we're getting today, or in these coming weeks about John Brennan.
Yeah,
this is Anthony Tata, top Pentagon nominee, pushed conspiracy theories that former CIA director tried to overthrow Trump and even have him assassinated. And this is kind of coming full circle.
Yes, exactly. And this is why you could see Trump's frustration if he's like, we are about to start, at the risk of hopium, we are about to start publicly pulling the legal thread that started with the Russia hoax. And we usually, when we bring that up, we do bring up the 2020 election because that's paramount. That's something that obviously the devolution operation we think hinges on, but also a lot of the, imagine the exposure. And, we've pushed for years, especially you and Chris, the need to fully reform and have disclosure on our election systems, right? But the assassination attempt is relatively recent, so much so that we hadn't worked it into that framework. It's interesting timing that this Brennan stuff comes back in because that thread goes beyond the 2020 election, right? What if that thread does continue all the way to July 13, 2024? And, that's not shocking to anybody watching this show, to anybody in the truth community, right? But imagine if you could get this kind of disclosure in Normieville, just opening up with the CIA tried to assassinate Donald Trump in 2024, that's not going to play well in Normieville because, we've heard it with JFK, we've heard it before, right? But if it's the end stage of a much longer rollout that starts with something relatively innocuous and relatively palatable to normies, which would be interference in 2016 by the intel agencies, that's like one door opening. The 2020 election is a much harder door to open, but if you've already opened it with 2016, you can open it easier with 2020. And then, if that gets codified in the public mind, yes, they did steal the election in 2020, but they couldn't do it in 2024, it makes an assassination attempt that much easier to believe. It's this escalatory path of basically, it would paint the picture of the intel agency tried to stop him from getting in early on. They made sure he didn't get in the second time, and then they tried again the third time, and they escalated every time they did it.
Yeah, so it's notable he's back in there. I want to read this part specifically. In May of 2018, Brennan tweeted a Cicero quote. Tata replied, as incompetent as John Brennan was as a CIA analyst, failure at Khobar Towers, we must assume he knows spy tradecraft. This is a signal to someone, somewhere. Cicero was assassinated for political reasons. This is a clear threat against POTUS. And then when a Twitter user challenged if Tata was serious about his accusation, Tata replied, totally. He's nervous. He ran the CIA. He's committed multiple crimes. He has the network to do what he threatens here. The Twitter user then asked the retired general if Brennan's tweet was a signal to someone to assassinate the president. Tata wrote back, "I believe so. Why else would he randomly quote Cicero on a day that real President Trump asked for an investigation of crimes that directly implicates him? Serious crimes, treason, sedition. He's a cowardly bureaucrat that lucked into a powerful PSN. He doesn't have the spine for this." He also posted about the Clinton body count. I mean, this is just, it's amazing he's back in there. I think he was part of the original Devo team in there at the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, which I can even pull that article up real quick and show you. I think it's in my part 3 where I first list out the flow chart. And
you're not subscribed to your Substack, man?
On Brave I am. I'm just not logged into my Substack on this browser, on Chrome. Brave was giving me issues on StreamYard, so I had to switch. But within days of his promotion to Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller and Trump began making moves within the DoD and Pentagon that many considered unusual. November 10th, Anthony Tata was promoted to senior official performing the duties of the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. The USDP happens to be the primary coordinator for the Department of Defense Directive 3020.26, which establishes DoD continuity policy and assigns responsibilities for its implementation. It's Coop Cog, everybody. So, yeah. And he's the only guy. A while back on a show, we were talking about Tata and his books, like the one. Actually, I have that here too. The Tom Clancy style military thriller. He published a book in November of 2019 titled Double Crossfire. The book has an interesting description in the most shocking scenario of our time. Former Brigadier General Tata takes you inside a brilliantly conceived, brutally executed plot to overthrow our government from within. Super interesting. But anyway, we were talking about his book, and apparently maybe people bought it or something because he messaged me on Twitter. He's like, "Hey, thanks for, promoting the book or whatever." It's like, holy shit, what's going on here? And so I started asking him, talking like, "You're welcome. You should come on the show sometime." He's like, "Yeah, cool." And then I asked him a devolution question.
And it turned into the Dark Knight.
No, I asked him a devolution question, and he just ghosted me. And I even sent a couple of messages here and there with random questions, nothing.
Yeah.
And
thought
then
he was some normie at first.
When he got nominated for this position back in February, I messaged him, and I don't want to I'm going to paraphrase. So let me just, I said, "Congrats on your nomination," and then openly invited him onto my show, the Daily Herald. He says he's on media lockdown, trying to keep a low profile, just trying to get confirmed. And then the lower the key, the better, all these things. And
should you be saying?
I mean, I'm just paraphrasing very
yeah.
I'll show you later some of the other stuff that's very interesting. But and then I just wished him congrats when he's confirmed, and he said thank you. So he's the only one that's ever engaged with me in a positive way, and I think that's really cool. So I like this guy. I think he's super based, and
we're best friends.
He's basically my second dad now.
Yeah.
He would bring me my glasses.
He's the one who brought you your glasses. Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah, I was also going to say, too, with the Brennan point and him getting back in here, speaking of assassination comms, super infamously, mimetically, and almost comically, which other guy made the news for alleged assassination comms toward President Trump? That would be James Comey, right? He was walking on the beach and he came upon some shells organized in a funny way. His wife thought it was so funny, he needed to gram it. He needed to put it on the gram, right? Obviously, nobody thought that was, made any sense. But these are the two guys. So we've got John Brennan, who is publicly accused by some of these people, by people in Trump's orbit, of stumping for assassination, or at least orbiting assassination talk around Trump. And then we've got James Comey embroiled in a 2024, 2025 mimetic narrative that a lot of people think is the same thing. And these are the two guys that started the Russia hoax. So, is it that difficult a line to drop? For I know it's so rote to this audience because it's well, yeah, we already know or suspect this, but it's the type of thing that would seem impossible to convince a majority of the American people about. The directors of the CIA and FBI tried to have Trump assassinated. Well, that sounds like a really impossible door to open again, unless you start with things that they can accept, which is man, I do remember that they spied on his campaign and then they admitted it. And this was those guys, You know, you start pulling that thread away, and when
Isn't
you look
it
at the
also-
firing... Go ahead.
Sorry, just on that point, isn't it also interesting that we really never got any resolution to the Butler assassination attempt? When there were some weird things there, like we never got a resolution to that. Like, does that come in play with
That's
this?
what I meant. That's what I'm referring to. Is
Yeah,
saying
okay.
I should have been more clear about that. Not just that they were having these
I wasn't
comms about
listening to
assassinations.
like half of what you said. So
No, my point is that if we can tie the 2024 assassination attempt as the third and most dramatic election interference, we're going to have three acts of election interference by these two fucking guys, right? And not just them. But they were the ones behind the 2016 interference, which we know for a fact. They admit it they brag about it.
Yep. The Russia collusion hoax.
Yeah, because they say it was real, right? So they own that. They publicly say they fortified the 2020 election.
Well,
so they have...
I can give multiple examples here. They buried the Hunter Biden laptop story, or they said it was just Russia, more Russia propaganda. But there was coordination between the Biden administration and the 51 intelligence agents, including Brennan, to do that. And then also the story that John Solomon keeps referring to is not following up on the Chinese fake ID story, which it's a lot more interesting now that story came out ahead of this, Grand Rico Grande, which I do think is interesting. They're calling it a Grand Rico case when my article in Devolution is Rico Grande. Somebody in the chat pointed that out earlier. So shout out to whoever that was. I do think that's interesting. But it's much more notable now that they put that out because there's 2 back-to-back elections that we can point to and be like, that's election interference. That's election interference. When they didn't follow up on intelligence that they had. That's malfeasance for sure.
Yep. And now I'm not saying every American felt this way, but after July 13th, 2024, the Overton window exploded to the point where I was commenting on this at the time on YouTube, or not on YouTube. I was commenting about the commentary on YouTube. The whole YouTube culture sphere, sort of Zoomer sphere, that were kind of adjacent to Trump. They kind of thought he was funny, etc. They just said, clearly they're trying to stop this guy from getting in. Like, it was so obvious what was going on there to everybody. So, as you just said, if we start with, election interference, and it was these guys involved, it was these intel agencies, 2 elections in a row, what was the election interference in 2024? Because we were like, we didn't have any, right? Trump won. July 13, 2024 was election interference, I would say. If you try to make the person running for election no longer alive, I would consider that pretty serious case of election interference.
You think that would hurt his chances of winning if he wasn't alive?
Well, apparently it's not going to hurt JFK Jr.'s chances for 2028, what we've been told. I just wanted to piss off the last 3 people.
You done did it. That was great. Somebody in the chat, it's Tony Man. I believe it's his birthday, so just wanted to wish him a happy birthday. But I do think it is interesting, the assassination thing specifically, and we've talked about this before. How do you spell assassination? Holy cow, I'm an idiot.
What a dummy.
Oh, that's the part that's not working. I had IC in there, and I should have just left it. Assassination. This right here, where the intelligence community changed the definition of election interference versus election influence. They changed the definition to include assassinations. And I think that's very notable.
It had to be in a document, or it wasn't.
The 2022, they updated their lexicon for foreign malign influence to ensure a common reference guide.
You guys totally can't kill us either when we're running for election. It's not just about fake IDs. Our bad.
Yeah. I guess that would.
Thank God they put it in a document.
Process, right? Nobody would have found it if it wasn't in there. Anyway,
that's illegal.
It's also S. Buson's birthday. Happy birthday, S. Buson as well. That's great. Today is the anniversary of JFK Jr.'s death. Now you touch on a sore subject, Burning Bright.
Is it?
That's what Ash said, and I've never seen an instance where Ash is wrong. So you should feel ashamed.
I did not know that. Well,
can you apologize, please?
Why would I apologize if he's totally alive and going to win in 2028?
Well, that's why you
What is
should
there
do
to
it.
be sad about?
How's Badlands ever going to get a place in the White House press room in the new media group with him as president when this is on the record now and you didn't even apologize for it?
Because I have so much faith that he is alive that I'm the only one who isn't sending condolences, because I'm like, I wouldn't do that over a fake death.
Woo! Okay. Bought it.
I don't dismiss anything. I mean, I don't think JFK Jr. is going to be the president in 2028. But I did think it was awesome that Trump directly connected Hillary Clinton to him with the boosting of the infamous video several months ago.
Yeah.
Seeing that.
So you don't think JFK Jr. is going to win the election? Or you do?
I think he would win it if he was alive.
You think so? Okay. I just want you on the record for that.
Yeah.
So you'd vote for him?
I'd vote for him.
Him or Trump? It's JFK Jr. versus Trump in 2028.
First term JFK Jr. or third term Trump?
Yeah.
Well, if JFK Jr. came back and went against Trump, I would feel like that would be a sign that it wasn't the real JFK Jr.
That just hypothetically.
Man, Trump. I can't go against.
What if Trump
can't go against Dad?
What if Trump doesn't give you what you want in the Epstein files? Then what?
Well, then I will prostrate myself before the throne of Benny Johnson and Charlie Kirk's huge massive head, and I will only listen to them from now on, no matter what they say about anything. I will be upset every day, no matter what is happening, and I will pledge to own the libs, because that's how we save the country. We own the libs.
I think you're making a gigantic mistake, but that's for your decision to make.
Okay, bro. Whatever. You're going to vote against Trump. You got on the record now. I think you said it.
I did.
Anyway,
I showed weakness.
You did show a little weakness. Let's talk about this, and there might be even more clips to this, but let's start with this one. This goes back to what we discussed on the show last week, having to do with the things that needed declassifying in the OIG report and the Durham. Or did I talk about this on my show? It's all starting to blend together.
Probably.
I don't remember what I talked about on what, but we talked about this last week, didn't we?
This just came out.
I know, but the RICO case, like what they were, the hints of the RICO case being opened. I'm pretty sure we talked about that on the show last week.
I think so. Yeah, because the Epstein stuff started last week, right?
Yeah, the Epstein stuff started on July 4th.
Yeah, and
or July 5th or something.
Yeah, because we talked about how people were like, "Oh, they're trying to cover it up with the Comey."
That's right.
Brennan, etc.
Okay, well, this is an update. I'm pretty sure last week we talked about what they were going to potentially look into having to do with Brennan.
Yeah.
And now there's two things that they want to declassify, and Trump says he's going to declassify, and this is pretty notable.
He made two big pieces of news in the middle interview. He is going to declassify the classified annex that showed that the FBI had new intelligence on Hillary Clinton's emails and chose not to look at it. We're going to, for the first time ever, get to see what that intelligence is. He's declassifying that. And then the intercept, where they find out Hillary Clinton approved the Russia hoax. He's going to declassify that. Letting a grand jury see that, something John Durham couldn't even do, will be a huge advantage to whoever the prosecutor is and for the FBI to get moving. He made two big pieces.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I talked about this on my show the other day, but this is from the Inspector General report having to do with Hillary Clinton's email server, and they kind of discuss what is in there. And the theme of both of these, I think, is the FBI's unwillingness to use the intelligence that they had to actually do what the fuck they're supposed to be doing. So, decision not to seek access to certain highly classified information. As detailed in the classified appendix to this report, the OIG learned late in our review that the FBI considered seeking access to certain highly classified materials that may have included information potentially relevant to the mid-year investigation, but ultimately did not do so. In late May of 2016, FBI Attorney 1 drafted a memo stating that a review of the classified materials was necessary to complete the mid-year investigation, and requesting permission to review them. They never did so. They never received access. They said that it was for various reasons, including that they believed the classified materials were unlikely to include info from the beginning of former Secretary Clinton's tenure, and thus would not have material impact on the investigation. Like, what if it came out that her emails wound up in some foreign country's hands? Like, what if another country acted? What if the entire Benghazi scandal and the Benghazi situation was because of information they had about something on Hillary Clinton's servers, but they didn't act on it? They didn't include in this report because they didn't want to damage her politically or something. You know what I mean? Like, what if they knew that? I mean, there's so many, hypotheticals, what ifs.
That's like
we have no
it,
idea.
That's almost putting it softly, right? But like, and even when we're talking about deep state operators within, I know we use the word deep state all the time, but really the context originally for deep state is this, right? It's deep, the intel agencies, deep operators, embedded operators, etc. So this would be really the definition of deep state. It's not that all of them are deep state, but kind of looking the other way, not like you said, maybe with Benghazi, not trying to damage somebody's political career, but there were absolutely very active operations going on there. Chris and I did 2 weeks ago, 13 hours, talked about some of that. That's certainly not the rabbit hole I'm most versed on, but it shows you actually, tonight we've talked a lot about the grand conspiracy and pulling the thread in the context of how does that thread go forward in time, 2016, 2020, 2024. But when you bring up Benghazi, that thread could go backward in time as well. And it really, when you start pulling that, you get into everything. You get into the Obama administration, you get into Clinton as Secretary of State. I mean, you go all the way back. And I know I'm the Russia guy, but when you think about the Obama administration, and I've floated these theories about the Russia collusion hoax, that it wasn't a coincidence that they chose Putin in Russia as the op that they were going to try to poison the well on. I personally think it's because they knew that Trump and Putin were allied in some way against them. Putin's been talking about this since the early 2000s, not with Trump, but in terms of what he's sort of fighting against. And again, if you pull that narrative thread and you go backwards, the U.S. side of it is Hillary Clinton, Benghazi. The Russia side of it is the Maidan coup. And that was 2014, right? Obama administration. So they've been fighting American patriots. They've been fighting Russian patriots the entire time.
Yeah, and this is spot on. I listened to most of that. I did. I also think the DNC hack could be part of, like, there's so many things having to do with this. The Guccifer thing. But here, because that's the story they ran with. They said that it was Guccifer. Russia claimed that they, what if there was something in the emails or something that they found that it did come from Seth Rich, and they buried that too. But part of the Clinton plan intelligence, now this is the Durham report, the thing that we're going to get declassified, hopefully. In late September 2016, high-ranking U.S. national security officials, including Comey and Clapper, received an intelligence product on Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election that included the Clinton plan intelligence. The office did not identify any further actions the CIA or FBI took in response to this intelligence product as it related to the Clinton plan intelligence. And it's all about, they basically got Russian intelligence that Russia knew or somehow figured out that Clinton approved this plan to vilify Trump, and they didn't really do anything with it. Again, like they didn't,
because they're like, well, we're gonna blame it on you guys. Like, the Russians are like, they're going to blame this whole thing on Trump, and then the FBI didn't want to act on it because they're like, well, yeah, you, Russia, are going to be the villain of the story, in the story that we're concocting.
Yeah, so they did have intelligence from Russia.
Yep.
It's just it's so funny how it played out, because I'm not going to be able to word this properly to convey it, but maybe I will. The intelligence community wanted to frame Trump of colluding with Russia by intercepting Russian intelligence that Clinton was going to also frame Trump of colluding with Russia, and not acting on receiving that intelligence, knowing that it was bullshit the whole time.
Right.
Did I phrase that properly?
That's true, and as retarded as it sounds.
Yeah, that was very
But it
retarded.
Also, to a large degree, in Normieville worked, which is the frustrating thing. And one of the one of the negative indicators I've used for a long time, which is not proof, it's just an indicator of the sovereign alliance theory and Trump working with Putin and all that, besides just that it was mentioned in a drop, is that this was, speaking of START, the start of the narrative war and the actual war. I would consider this the start of the actual war against Donald Trump, the deployment of an intelligence operation, right? That's really what this is describing. If that's the start of the actual war against Trump, spying on his campaign, that's what he usually references. It also means that it was the start of trying to combat the Sovereign Alliance, because they made damn sure to poison the potential unification of the US and Russia because they knew it was the plan. You know, all the way to the Helsinki summit and all that kind of stuff with the soccer ball.
Totally. Ash said in the chat, Russiagate was at its core a cover-up. And that's another aspect to this. That, I mean, of course it was. But they literally say the intelligence they had was that the reason Hillary Clinton wanted to vilify Trump was to distract from her DNC scandal, like the DNC server scandal. And that's exactly what it was. And the intelligence community is the one who buried the DNC story for her and allowed the Russia collusion thing to go forward. Like,
and John, this has just been a theory of mine, or I don't know if it's only me, but that we've talked about a little bit, maybe even last week. I've nurtured a theory that the Russians were the ones who had the information on the DNC hack.
What do you mean?
And provided that. So like
they did hack it?
Yeah, that's why one of the theories has been I say in my writing a lot, Russia collusion was real and it's a good thing. Meaning sure. The Russians shared, this is just a theory.
So you don't buy the Seth Rich thing?
Well, no, I'm not saying I don't buy the Seth Rich thing, but that could be connected here. That could be the Russian source just as much as anything else. I mean, the information got to Julian Assange, like according to the narrative. The information came from Seth Rich, it got to Julian Assange, it got from Julian Assange to the Russians. He did share that intelligence with Russia.
Did he?
So, yeah, he has said that, but he hasn't said the timeline in which he did that. So that's why it's all just theory of connecting it all the way back.
I did not know he said that. That is interesting, if true.
So, well, he said the Russians knew about it.
Well,
so
I think this is
I
like
took that to mean.
I think this, like what they're saying in here, that the Russian intelligence that they intercepted. But anyway, that doesn't matter. We can toy
just
the theory.
The larger point that I'm making is it's just a pet theory is that Russia collusion was real and it's a good thing. Meaning, this is when the most effective psyops, in my opinion, that the enemy deploys is when they are basically telling you 90% of the truth and then they hit you with a swerve at the very end. Or they just leave the last part unsaid. So if they knew that the Russians had this information, and if they knew, the bad guys, that the Russians were sharing that information with the Trump campaign, technically almost everything the intel community said about the Trump campaign in 2016 was true. They were communicating with the Russians. They were sharing intelligence with the Russians on a political opponent. But that was a good thing because the Russians were telling them this is what they're doing. They're framing you. And again, I'm not even saying that Trump needed the Russians, etc. But I've always just thought it was interesting. If you look at some of Putin's old comments about this stuff, he just kind of talks about like, yeah, everybody knows what they were doing. Everybody knows what the Clintons were doing, and Trump knew what they were doing as well. So
no, it's definitely interesting. It's plausible too. I mean,
yeah.
The way things have played out, it wouldn't be so shocking at all to find out that Putin like told Trump about it. It didn't mean he actually interfered because,
right?
The Russia collusions. I don't want there to be any collusion. I don't want there to be any interference in our elections. I don't think we're never going to get to a scenario in today's day and age of social media and technology and everything where there isn't such a thing as election influence. That's not going anywhere. That's like psyops. People are going to psyop in narrative warfare for eternity. It just is what it is.
It shouldn't even be listed in any legal record. That terminology is fucking retarded.
It is.
Like,
but whatever. I mean, everybody tries to influence everybody else's elections.
Yeah.
And
they're allowed to, by the way.
Yeah. People put up bullshit all the time. All the time.
Yeah. But, I think to your point there, it's not... I would have no moral qualms about that if it's the truth. That's what it hinges on, right? We cannot get to a society with everything we talk about with election fraud, etc. We cannot get to a place where if we acknowledge that a foreign nation has truth that it could provide to the American people to make more informed decisions, that we would not want that because they would be interfering in our election.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Real quick, everybody, wouldn't mind if you did us a favor and hit that thumbs up. There's more I want to talk about tonight, but it's getting kind of late. 11:30 almost. I mean, probably the biggest story, if we want to briefly, and I know that's hard for you to do, but if you want to briefly, the Powell stuff is interesting. There's a lot of focus on Powell. Trump has been focusing on Powell, like trying to get him out of there. They're kind of coming at him from a bunch of different angles.
Mm-hmm.
There's that whole $2.5 billion, renovation thing that they're going after him for the Fed. It's really interesting. Part of what Trump needs here is at some point to get somebody at the Fed who's going to like play ball. And maybe Powell is in this moment in time doing what he wants to do. I'm still kind of waiting to see if we get the shadow Fed chair as Bessent proposed. It was interesting last week or sometime in the last 7 days, he put out a story where he was like, there's this thing floating around about a shadow Fed chair, but we really need like the Fed to be in line with the president and all these things. Like it'd be conflicting. I was like, bro, you're the one who pushed that story. You're the one who came up with that idea. What are you talking about? So I thought that was interesting, but yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. Could be a interesting legal battle.
Sorry. My pet way of looking at this with Bessent is that he is telling us in a sly roundabout way that he is the shadow chair. That's kind of what I think here.
Kind of.
I mean, it's really not a stretch, not just because of what he's been communicating, but as we've talked about on this show going back months, this is probably the narrative that I think we've been most on top of, like that keeps kind of hitting the points that we think it's going to hit.
How dare you? We've been right about everything.
Yeah, right. But, going back to early 2024 comments where Bessent said that he envisions a global economic reordering and he'd really like to be a part of that if he ever got the chance, right? Well, sort of seems like he's a part of that. There's a lot of global economic reordering going on, and there's a lot of it going on in the US. And tangential to this, Trump has been pushing, you guys saw this morning, he was rallying around two bills in the House, the Genius Act and the Clarity Act.
Yep.
And those are all around US stable coins, which for people who aren't into like Bitcoin, never mind that. It's like, what are you even talking about? But just the Cliff Notes version of that is that with all the digging I've been doing on stable coins, Howard Lutnick's heavily involved in that world, by the way. His kids are heavily involved in that world.
Did you know he lived next to Epstein?
He did. That undoes all of this. So this is probably a rug. But Trump said we're never going to have a central bank digital currency. He's moving to outlaw the possibility of ever having that. But he's pushing US stablecoins. I've been trying to think why. Why is he pushing those? Well, stablecoins are going to be printed or minted by private companies. But by law, they will have to have proof of reserves, meaning the real assets have to back the stable coins, which are then pegged to the US dollar 1-to-1. That's how stable coins work.
Can Bitcoin be one of those assets?
I think so. They haven't said that yet, but I think that's where this is going on a long enough timeline. Right now, the assets backing stable coins, for example, Tether is the most famous one right now.
Rumble
partnered with Rumble.
Yeah.
So more signal there. Invested heavily by the Lutnicks, by the way, and Eric Trump. Or Eric Trump has his own, sorry. What do they call that? American, Liberty Financial or something. But either way, the Trumps are in it, the Lutnicks are in it. So right now, US stablecoins are backed by US Treasury bills. And this has been, I think this is the key that finally unlocked for me. How can Trump be moving into a decentralized future while also saying we're going to have a strong dollar? And I know people talk about the gold standard and stuff, and you can have that even in this discussion, because what's going to back the stablecoins? Maybe it's gold as well. Maybe it's gold at the beginning. Maybe it's a mix of these things. And what it does early on is when these stablecoins are backed by treasuries, it also stabilizes the US dollar. So, and the point I wanted to make about Powell and the Fed, what do central banks do? What's the only thing they do? They raise and lower interest rates. Sorry?
Fuck us over.
Yeah. And they do that by raising and lowering interest rates, which is a soft money printing. And then they do actual money printing. Well, they do that without proof of reserves and with no assets backing them. So if Trump is moving us into a stablecoin future where those companies have to have proof of reserves, what's he doing? He's creating private banks all over the place that are then the things that are actually backing the US dollar, in which case you no longer have any public reason for a Federal Reserve Bank.
Yeah. It's also interesting.
I don't know.
Rise of Tire in the chat said, what did he say here? Stable coins are, by the way, guys, get your gear, badlandsmedia.tv/rise. They're also going to be at Deadwood Gart. We got to play that promo here later. But stable coins are how I turn my crypto into cash. It's transactional. And that's a really good point, too. It's like the gateway between the dollar and the other cryptos like Bitcoin and whatever crypto you're into. That's a great point because this is how you start to onboard people.
Well, also, it's an even bigger point with foreign currencies. So for a lot of Americans, we're like, why would you use Tether? Well, you really wouldn't unless you're laying out the use case you just did. Decentralized finance, it's rails there. What it's being used as right now is ways for foreign governments, foreign people to save their wealth in the US dollar. Like we always think, oh, you save your wealth in Bitcoin, you save your wealth. Well, in fairness, Bitcoin is extremely volatile, right? Or historically it has been. So if you're in Nigeria, African countries have the highest use rate of Tether and US stablecoins because they want to take their shit currencies and they want to save them in US dollars, but they can't have US bank accounts. Mm-hmm. So what do? They have Tether accounts.
It's crazy.
So all these foreign nations are actually backing Trump's new US dollar. And I think it's happening in parallel with the basically collapse of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we all want to see. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. Trump did make a comment today in an interview. I think I saw it was today. Talking about we don't need, actually, you know what? I think it was the Storm has arrived who posted it, so I can maybe play the clip. Yeah, right here. Donald J. Trump actually says we can get rid of the IRS.
And I have a real shot. We're taking in tremendous amounts of money. You saw that we had a $25 billion surplus last month.
Yeah.
And the tariffs haven't really started by comparison to what they will be. You know, we're doing them on cars right now, cars and steel mostly. But the other ones kick in on August 1st, and they're very substantial. And the answer is, I think there's a real shot. I actually say there's a shot at, we have the Internal Revenue Service. We could use the External Revenue Service, and we wouldn't even need the Internal Revenue Service. But the money is very substantial. It's hundreds of billions of dollars. And, I have a real shot. We're taking in tremendous.
Real shot. Get rid of the IRS. Skeptical, a little skeptical, but we'll see what happens. We'll see where crypto and gold. Badlandsmedia.tv/river for your crypto. $10 a month, guys. That's all it takes. You can even do like $5 a month, I'm pretty sure. And then badlandsgold.com if you're a gold bug or silver bug. No issues with that. Silver's still artificially suppressed. I think that's only going up too. So interesting times ahead economically. And we'll see what happens with the Fed. Because however that situation resolves with Powell, that's going to be the launching point of a lot of like the big changes and things moving forward. So I'm excited to see how that unfolds and when it unfolds.
Yep. And I think tangential to this, I know you and Chris have talked about this on your shows as well. The convergence between massive AI data center acceleration, nuclear energy transition, and decentralized finance and Bitcoin all coming out of the Trump administration at the same time that a lot of people are not connecting. When he's going to Pittsburgh and investing $75 billion or talking about a $75 billion investment there, nuclear energy, these things are all the same story, but it's going to take years for people to kind of start understanding.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait, Bitcoin needs massive energy, capture. And Greta Thunberg's upset about it. And, other people in the truth community are upset about it. Well, looks like we're transitioning to this extremely efficient energy acceleration window. That's so weird. And AI is going to need all this energy. And AI is going to transact in a decentralized currency. That's so weird that all these things are happening at the same time.
Do you hear they're talking about building data centers on the moon?
I'm not willing to go that far.
But you're willing to vote for JFK Jr. in 2028, but you're not willing
to consider voting for him and then not
data centers on the moon.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Just trying to see where the boundaries are here, because
that's it.
There appears not to be any.
I have one boundary, and I will not abide data centers on the moon.
You have two boundaries, because you also, I feel like you wouldn't do data centers attached to sharks.
Yep. That's fair. I showed my son the ocean today, and he loves water. So I thought he was going to love it. And I took him too close. And when the waves are crashing, he like looked at it for 30 seconds or so and then just screamed like angry, made a weird scream he's never made before. So I had to take him away from it. But it was funny. It was like the first time he was like, I need a specific vocalization to express how upset I am about whatever I'm looking at right here.
He's probably heard your shark
Probably.
rants.
He might have seen a shark.
Maybe you did. Well, how close to the ocean? Did you like throw him into the ocean? Like how close?
No, I was like standing pretty much in it almost.
I was like,
so it was scary.
Yeah. Okay, I get that. I wouldn't
like the waves. It was loud and stuff.
Okay, guys, I don't know if this is just, but I feel like we need to report him to see. Yeah, he had his son in the ocean.
Right.
He put his baby in the ocean.
He's also laying like this right now, which is based. It's hilarious.
So I know my dad's talking about me. Oh, funny.
Oh, handsome little guy.
He's gonna be in Deadwood too, isn't he?
I don't know. That's the hope, but
is Miss Bright thinking about skipping?
Discussions are ongoing. We have a lot of shit to figure out.
A real Miss Bright for Mr. Bright up front on the
record.
Record.
She's more useful there or remote?
More useful than you there?
I'm not asking that. More useful to you.
I mean, she does great either way. I would prefer her there to be there in person, experience it with us all.
Yeah,
great.
We got to figure it out. It's
about a month away, so
I know we have to figure it out like nowish.
It'd be cool if you figured that out. Yeah, I'd love to know. Curious what you guys decide. We do get I'm going to play a quick trailer because we have a documentary that we're going to be airing at this next GART, and you guys, if you want to watch it, you need to be there in person, or you can also watch it with your virtual ticket. I don't think we made that clear enough. If you have your virtual ticket, you will get access to this documentary. So check it out.
Next thing you know, we heard boom. We ran up to the corner and hit right into the World Trade Center.
Can you tell us what kind of an airplane is it?
It had to be a 737. It had to hit the World Trade Center.
Okay, and what do you see at this point?
Oh, smoke and screaming and, screaming engines and all the fire engines and police departments are all traveling down that way. Oh, my God almighty, the black smoke all over the place. I hope there's got to be somebody killed in it, the poor people that went to work. In a matter of seconds, we heard a boom. We went to the corner, and there it was, right in the middle of the World Trade Center.
If you're taking a look now, you can see that we've just had another explosion.
Oh, my God, the smoke is coming out. Black billow smoke. My God almighty, this is a real disaster.
Sohack in the chat has a deal of a lifetime going right now. If you send him 100 Bitcoin, he will send you 10 back.
Wow. Act now.
Act now. And if you need to buy that 100 Bitcoin first, badlandsmedia.tv/river. All right, let's do.
Bro.
You want to check for boosts?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I do. I don't know if I read these John from New Jersey ones last week from the 9th. What is it? No, we did. Facts Not Wishes sent 20 bucks over. I'd guess I'm about as patient a MAGA guy as there is. I didn't expect Trump to be Trump won to be what he was, and I surely thought we'd never see Trump 3. But he is seriously fucked up on Epstein.
Maybe.
Well, there you go.
But maybe not.
Don't think so. I don't agree. Maybe we collectively seriously fucked up on Epstein.
How often is it though that like people come to conclusions about things with Trump when the situation hasn't fully resolved? Like
Never happened.
It's never. Okay, that's right. I apologize. Never mind. I take it back.
Yep. Apology accepted. That's it. We're good on Boost.
Awesome. Rocky Top Apologist says $2 for the chat quota. And I love this rant. I've seen it a few times now, and I've been thinking, I don't think we actually set the quota. And I think we may set at $3. So
Oh, there is a way to do that?
no, but he's claiming that we have a quota, and so maybe it's just him popping in the chat to say hi.
No, he came on Story Hour last night and did that, and he was talking about helping us with metrics for the Rumble program.
The new chat thing. Awesome.
Yeah.
There were gifted memberships on YouTube. No way. Peter, this a gentleman and a scholar, Peter Friedrich, I'm not sure how to say the name, but anyway, gifted 5 Badlands media memberships. That is incredibly generous.
Donald Trump in disguise.
That is Donald Trump. We are monetized on YouTube. We got I think we have 1 strike on this current YouTube channel. We'll see how long we last, but we really appreciate the support over there. We're curious to see what happens, where it goes. So thank you, Peter. And just kidding, Rocky Top Apologist. Thank you for the rant, man. And another one he says here, BB has people so aware of sharks. I'm going as far inland as possible this year. Deadwood. Can't wait to meet you at Deadwood then.
We're going to be in Deadwood. It's a coincidence.
We'll be there too. I wonder if we'll be there at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
Yeah.
You can never fully discount the threat that sharks pose because the chances can be low, but never zero.
Never zero. Deborah Stars for the rant from earlier. Guest bunker busters are bygones. I'm even writing your name down to respond to your email tomorrow.
Being a real nag, Deb.
She's reminded me politely a couple times, and it's just been crazy, man. Summers are crazy with my kids here. Some of the traveling. I'm home now until Deadwood, so I'm at some point hopefully going to catch up. But anyway, Micro Toolmaker, $55. Thank you, sir. Another great day to be alive. Where we go one, we go all. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Micro. I saw that he gifted subs earlier as well. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Dwayne, not Dwayne, says the Obama administration was always called the most transparent administration ever. Good to know. Interesting. I was curious who started around the Trump administration, though. And I feel like Obama may have been lying when he said that.
Jury's still out.
Texas Jules, I'm not even sharing this tab. Texas Jules says, hey, Dallas Badlanders, we're having another awesome meetup this Sunday from 1 to 4 in Plano. Email txjules, Jules, at proton.me for more info. I highly encourage you guys, if you haven't been to one of these meetups, to go check them out. It's a great way to connect with fellow Badlanders, fellow like-minded people.
Steph Asia is claiming that Deb is not a nag.
No,
she's being a real nag about it.
Steph Asia's not a nag either. I'll vouch for that. But no, Deborah's not a nag. Nobody's.
All right.
I have totally under-delivered, over-promised and under-delivered in
the John Harold story. that's the documentary at Gart Deadwood 2026.
Hey, it's only in my email communications. I am not good at emails.
Promise, under deliver. The John Harold story.
There we go. Anyway, thanks for that, asshole. Genetic says the blackmail evidence was never in the control of the FBI. It's at a location unknown to Catherine Bongino. The FBI probably has files related to Trump as a FU to Trump admin.
That's got to be it. There's no other explanation possible.
How do we know the blackmail evidence exists if we haven't seen it? Just saying.
John, when intel drops in our lap like this, just be grateful about it. Okay, don't get snarky about it.
I take it more serious if it was $2, but I'll live with it for this one show. Blast Genetics again. says, I just picture Cash and Bongino opening the files and it's just Trump hoax BS, LOL, like a big gotcha for you. That is kind of funny to think, like,
yeah,
just a bunch of AI videos and pictures of.
Did you see that Elon expanded the Tesla self-driving territory in Austin into a big penis?
I did see that. It's pretty funny.
Yep.
Pretty funny.
Very real, though, in the midst of a very real feud. Oh, by the way, he just got a new series of contracts with the DOD during the very real feud, for sure.
Very real feud.
All tracks.
Blasted Genetics. He firing of Comey today is interesting. Yes, I agree with BB. It's just a hoax gotcha to embarrass Trump. Israel and Mossad or Black Hat. CIA has the actual blackmail stuff. Shit was never at Hoover. Very possible. Ashley D, I've had my nose in my work all day. It's odd to hear some big news before reading it myself, like Comey fire. LFG. That is pretty fire. That firing. Clearcut 367 for $11. John, you are truly blessed to have such awesome parents. It's the kind of thing my folks would have done. I miss them so much. Thanks to you and BB for a great show and for all you do. See you in Deadwood. Looking forward to meeting you there. You'll actually meet my mom in Deadwood, and I will say I do think my parents are pretty freaking awesome.
I'm a little prejudiced.
But I am a little prejudiced. You've met my mom.
Yeah.
Bernie Brett.
My parents didn't come to Gart, Plymouth, and they're from Plymouth County.
Yep. And my mom drove all the way to South Dakota for me.
Yep.
Ekim Navilla says, we should be focusing on Maxwell, not Epstein. She was probably his handler and the keeper of all secrets. Very possible as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's interesting that she's out there being like, guys, I want to talk. I want to talk more. And again, you can go by camera with that. If you want to say, oh, it's part of disclosure, then she's the source. But if you want to say that this is a poison pill, she might be doing their bidding as part of that poison pill.
Also, didn't SCOTUS just turn down her appeal?
I don't know. I didn't see. Oh, yeah. They did.
Yeah.
Stop it.
JCQ17 says, maybe the Trump card belongs to the enemy, and this is it. Destroy the evidence, doctor new file, frame Trump again. Impressive tactic, but this is going to backfire bigly. Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy if they can prove, like, come out with proof that they fabricated Trump stuff in there.
Right.
That'd be pretty nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it makes
it was all the same people that were involved in all the other hoaxes that he's talking about there.
And then it makes the whole demand for transparency and release of the files even more interesting.
And suspect, yeah.
Yep.
Because do those guys know the fake stuff that's in there?
Mm-hmm. We'll see. It may, or maybe we won't. We don't know. The Freeman Show. Do we know who actually released the unsigned, undated FBI DOJ memo on a Sunday night to access of all places? Seems like a black hat op, but should be so easy to announce who released it and why. We would know if there was transparency, but we don't know. Deplorable number 1. I'll let Trump's truth post really get to me, and I ranted on Badlands Daily about him screwing the 2026 midterms. Ash set me straight, as she does. I think Trump is right about this being BS. Stand with Trump. There you go.
We just have to consider it. You have to strongly consider it. You have to go down that path and see if it starts to make sense.
The final demand. I work in a sub shop in North New Hampshire, resort town. I talk to hundreds of people a day. Few about politics. Not one person has mentioned Epstein for years. Normies don't care. So I made that point earlier. And I like rants that agree with my points that I make sometimes. That's
Do
cool.
you make a good steak and cheese? I'll wait. We will wait for your response.
In silence. Susie Q 2021. Trump brought up sex trafficking at nearly every rally during both terms and several times told us many of the 300K missing children are dead, remember? Yeah, but did he ever bring up Epstein? No, he didn't. He never brought up Epstein at one rally. Pretty sure. If you can prove that wrong, let me know. Supporting DPH for $20 is 1027JS, my fellow North Dakotan. Thank you for that and truly appreciate it.
In fact, John, another point that could go either way, but on the fact that Trump hasn't brought this up besides the infamous CPAC thing. Remember the one time he talked about a satanic cabal of pedophiles? He was directly asked by mainstream media about that. And he responded with, would that be a bad thing? Right? He did the...
Yeah, that'd be a bad thing. That
was infamous. You can look at that as a confirmation that that's what he's doing, which We did at the time. I did at the time. You can also look at it in light of this, of him going, I know what you're fucking doing.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna go over here.
That's interesting. Oops, it's the wrong rant. So we got a rant from Faith and Freedom, and it's a link to this.
This is the CPAC.
This is the CPAC thing. This is the thing that was within a month of the article dropping about Bill Clinton going to or being on the Epstein flight logs. Okay. So within a month of that dropping, Trump is asked about Bill Clinton to give his thoughts on him. And then after this, he's asked about Obama. And then after that, he's asked about, like, he's getting asked a bunch of names to give his thoughts about him. This is his thoughts on Clinton.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
There we go. Thank you for that, Faith and Freedom. JK Nerdy says, thanks, fellas. Thank you. White Lotus Society. You know, John, I think Cash calling the conspiracy case a grand conspiracy is definitely a hat tip to Rico Grande, just saying. That's the person who said earlier. I'm glad you put in a rant.
Is there a legal term? There's a legal distinction between a grand conspiracy? Because Solomon said it as well.
But I hope there's not, because if there's not, that's more of a hat tip. You should look that up. Babbage 3. When Pam Bondi said it was on her desk and ready for review, she was about to leave seller feedback for the porcelain doll she bought on eBay. Apologies for the confusion. That's funny. Thank you, Babbage. Thank you for the continued support. Always see you over there on YouTube. Another 179. The Epstein thing has only been in my peripheral vision, as well as the ongoings with people such as Bongino. But if Bongino fell for this supposed fake narrative, who could blame others for the same? Exactly right. That's a great point.
Grand conspiracy is not a legally distinctive term from conspiracy charges.
Whoa. So what we're referring to here, guys, is Devolution Part 19. I guess I titled it Rico Suave, but Chris always talks about grand.
Spotes in the chat says John Solomon said he's just calling it a grand conspiracy. I wasn't sure because I saw the clip and I didn't know if he was saying, like, you know, grand larceny is different from larceny, right?
I wish they'd call it Rico Suave instead now.
Wish they'd call it just like wicked fucking huge conspiracy.
I wonder what the longest conspiracy timeline is. Like, what's the biggest time frame that people have dealt with a Rico case? Like, is it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Wonder. Should look that up. I'll look that up sometime.
What, like the longest in terms
window
of the charges?
Window that they've
I'll look it up.
Examined crimes for. Another 179. My atonement for stepping out of character by being serious in my last rant when it comes to self-sufficiency in the canine world. Wolves are the hallmark. Dogs, nah, always bow-wowing things. Love that. That's clever, funny. Babbage 3, there were gifted memberships on YouTube. Thanks for that heads up. Check again to make sure there's nothing else. Gallant 1, been a while, gents. Enjoyed seeing you both at GART Las Vegas. Was an honor being interviewed by you, John. Wish I had a chance to meet you, BB, next time. Yeah, we may go back to Vegas next year. We're kind of going through places, and Vegas was such an easy place for people to get to, and
it is very accessible.
I
feel like it also serves like the West Coast audience.
Yeah,
we can't necessarily afford to go to California, even though we'd like to.
Yeah.
We did once, but you know,
that's not
Californians can go to Vegas.
Yeah, so right now for next year, we just signed Deadwood again, so we'll do Deadwood in 2026. We're looking at Las Vegas. We're looking at Nashville, and we haven't decided the fourth place. Maybe a Texas. Maybe Florida again. We're never going back to Boston because the traffic was terrible.
Go to Toronto.
Probably not leaving the country either.
Up there.
Probably not leaving the country. We'll see.
According to AI, based on available information, one of the longest time windows in a RICO case is referenced in the prosecution of Sean Combs, a 20-year span. P. Diddy. I didn't put it on deep search mode, though, so there might be others.
Oh, so that's just a surface level search?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ash in the chat says Gambino family took more than 20 years to get meaningful arrests. Started in the 50s, first notable arrest in the 70s. Brian and I have been talking about this for months. I'm certainly hoping that doesn't take 20 years to get meaningful arrests. Although we're on that pace right now, I'd say. Maybe.
Right.
Just kidding. The Meerkat says, just thanks, guys. Rewinding to where I left off earlier. See ya, Deadwood. Thank you. Deborah Stars forgave me. Forgiven, John. Thank you. I wrote it down. It's on here. It's on there. Deborah Stars email. So I'll never not follow through on that. Hopefully. Thank you. Lopat67. Moon data centers. Fuck yeah. Great discussion. I'm so heartbroken for my 86-year-old parents who met and married in the Navy under JFK and lived their whole lives under this system. They both voted Trump 3 times.
Nice. It's cool to see JFK people voting Trump.
Yeah, that is great. The Meerkat, Cash and Bongino opened the files and it was all stick figure drawings and a couple hundred paintings. That's awesome.
Yeah.
True Deplorable, Interesting Angle, and Epstein Files. Saint Pete 70, Anna Pamuma Banca wants to hear her song. She's under an alias. Thank you for that. And I do have, this is so exciting because we just got a rant about this too. Miriam44, since you brought up River, I've purchased from River, just ordered a Trezor wallet. Why is this purchase from Czechoslovakia, not US? That's a great question. I don't know. But the River wallet thing, I literally just got the email during the show today that we have been accepted to be Trezor wallet affiliates.
Really?
Yeah. So that's very exciting. I wonder what
You use Trezor, right?
Yep.
I use Trezor as well.
So if you guys bear with me for a second, I can probably give you our affiliate codes and stuff. You must agree to the privacy policies to accept the cookies. Okay, I did that. I did do that. Oh. Uh-oh. Don't remember my password. What did I log in on? Hold for processing, guys. Do you want to read the last rant? And maybe like...
River one. Graham Smith sent $10 over. Can you do a GART in Kansas City? I know Mrs. Bright does want to do that at some point. But we probably wouldn't do Tennessee and Kansas City the same year.
Oh man, I need to get an authenticator
Anywhere
code.
Good barbecue. Chris Noel.
Chris 10 Noel. She was one of she was at Vegas and she did karaoke. She's a roots in North Dakota as well.
Is she a nag?
No.
Okay, fine. Kristen Noel, $20. I vote for Vegas and hope to get to Deadwood next year. Will Deadwood be in August in 2026? All of this is probably going to get John in trouble if this is right, but
it's June.
it just comes right out with confidential information.
But I'm not saying when in June.
Marguerite Carlin, Hotlanta meetup, Marietta Square Market, July 20th, 2 to 4, RSVP with Jackie Espada. All right, Hotlanta.
Okay, stall for me. I'm trying to, or you guys can wait for the Trezor affiliate thing. I still got to do some things. I have to like authenticate things and.
Besides using our affiliate code, never, ever, ever buy a Bitcoin cold wallet from Amazon or anything like that. It's one of the easiest little traps going on in the space where they give you a hot wallet. So when you buy a Trezor or whatever cold wallet you choose, you've got to buy it directly from the website of the company, because one of the most common scams is people will sell Trezors on Amazon, but that Trezor has already been loaded with a backdoor. So when you set it up and load your Bitcoin onto it, somebody's got that access to that key. So when you buy one directly from Trezor, it comes sealed, and like you can see whether or not the seal's been broken, comes direct from them, etc. So it's one of those ways people get bamboozled. They're like, oh, this one's $15 cheaper on Amazon, and then they get smoked.
Yeah, that sucks.
Gotta be careful.
I need to figure out how to
Ash is nagging you to look at Telegram.
Oh my gosh.
She's a real nag.
The soil on the moon could support life, scientists say. She says moon data centers on moon soil using samples brought back from Chinese mission to the moon. However, scientists were able to find a new method that would allow the astronauts to get the water they need from the lunar soil. Previous attempts to do so have used large amounts of energy and didn't break down CO2, but the new system overcomes those problems. Wow. That is interesting. And totally real, probably.
Must be.
I don't know how to... Okay, so you guys... I'm going to have to put pause on this because I do not know how to do the Trezor code thing. And on the spot like this, I'm just feeling rushed. So
yeah.
I'll get that announced tomorrow. Get my team on it. But all right, guys, let's wrap it up. We'll send you over to Brad maybe because he's about to go live, isn't he?
He's a known ne'er-do-well.
Well, that's just rude.
I don't see him on the list.
Oh, that's right. He might be.
Oh, I think he's taking it easy.
I think he's got stuff going on. So, never mind. All right. Well, with that, man, do you got any outro videos? Otherwise, I'll probably play our GART promo or something, and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Okay. Night, everybody. Get
Peace.
your GART tickets. Month away. Gonna be a great time.
I'll be back on Sunday night, and I believe Jordan is going to join me.
Nice. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be a good time. Okay. Catch you later.
Coming August 14th to 17th, Badlands Media returns to Deadwood, South Dakota for the 9th stop of the Great American Restoration Tour. Come for family, friends, fun, and a f***ing good time. Hear truth bombs that hit harder than B2s on an Iran nuke site from Burning Bright, Chris Paul, CanCon, Red Pill 78, Brad Nabby, Ash, Ghost, Jordan Sather, John Harold, whoever that is, and more. Plus, Alpha might make you a sandwich. Deadwood is a gorgeous town in the middle of the Black Hills of South Dakota. If you've never been, you need to see it. Plus, you might be lucky enough to witness some terrible karaoke from your favorite Badlanders. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/events for weekend or one-day tickets. And if you can't make it in person, virtual tickets are available too. Watch from the comfort of your couch with tons of behind-the-scenes content and get access to an exclusive GART chat. That's badlandsmedia.tv/events. Be there or be there online. It'll be recorded.